An array of music rave.
Make me lie when I don't want to.
Blues.
You are my everything.
Two local gems. And we sit to chat with the Thiambo.
I can't even tell whether you're looking at me, seeing me.
With the Louis Vuitton.
Classic comedy.
Makono too.
Say that again.
Enjoy the Divas programming this February only on KBC Channel 1. Kenya's watching.
Vicente and I, well, we talked last night. And I said yes. I said yes, that I would marry him.
Seriously?
Yes.
She accepted, Professor.
What are you talking about?
It's Corina. She said she's going to marry me, Professor.
Ruben, someone's got to open your eyes, and there's no one better than me.
And for sure, Fabiola must have told you she's having problems with my wife.
Daddy.
Well,
Daddy.
aren't you going to say hello to our guest?
The education tide is changing in Kenya. 844 is slowly marching to its sunset with the entry of the competency-based curriculum. Will Kenya surmount the challenges?
The Ministry of Education will move with speed to ensure that there is synergy and there is seamless transition of all our children under the new CBC education curriculum.
Join KBC Channel 1 on Prime Edition on Wednesday for a special bulletin on the state of primary education in the country.
Exactly 36 minutes past the top of the hour. Good morning to you. Where are you watching this broadcast from? Speak to us. We are here. Packed up show for you. That is what we have prepared for you. And even as we speak, the war on ending banditry, or the efforts, I should say, are gaining momentum. This is even after 20 firearms were surrendered as of yesterday, and this just coming at a time where the Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki has said that the police as well as the KDF who had been deployed will continue pitching camp in these banditry-prone areas up until this continuous attacks in the north are done away with. Nonetheless, later on the show, we'll look at matters construction, engineering and building. We'll look at the efforts that have been proffered by this particular sector as far as nation building is concerned, and this is even as you gear towards the World Engineering Day, which will be coming up on the 4th of March. We equally just not look at the contribution impacts therein, but also the loopholes are still underlined as far as the sector is concerned. That coming away up from 8 a.m. Good morning to you. Always a pleasure to have you on board. Ram.
Remember, we are coming to you live from the broadcasting house here in Nairobi, Kenya. Also, we're live on all our social media platforms and on our website, www.kbc.co.ke/.co.ke. Okay, so head over there to our website, and you'll be able to catch us live from wherever you are watching us from. This is Good Morning Kenya, Thank you so much for sticking with us. As Doreen has said, we have a lot of stuff for you, and also top on our stories coming up on your way with none other than Reggie himself, herself.
He, she. Well,
hashish.
I want to confirm that she's a she.
She's a she.
She's a she.
Is she?
At a time when, gender issues are quite controversial. Well, we want to say that this is Regina Manyora, and she's proud to be feminine. Now, good morning. This is Good Morning Kenya. We have so much lined up for you in as far as politics as well as business is concerned. Now, to just give you a tidbit of what is happening as far as bilateral trade ties between the East African larger regional bloc, and particularly Kenya, is that President William Ruto yesterday addressed the first ever EU Business Council and told them that investing in Kenya is the best thing they would ever do, because Kenya strategically placed is a gateway to the larger East African community, as well as taking advantage of a vast human resource that also brings together a larger market. If you look at members of COMESA, SADC and the EAC, we'll be keeping tabs on that too. And talking about what is happening across the country is that we're going to be joined by none other than Victor Olo, all the way from Bungoma County, where he's going to be engaging in a candid conversation with the leadership of Bungoma County. Bungoma County is known for maize farming. Good morning, Victor. How is Bungoma?
Good morning, Regina, Doreen, and Ram back in Nairobi. Let me tell you, where I am, just a kilometer or two away is Chitambe Hills. Believe you me, I can't feel my fingers. It's literally cold here. But nonetheless, good morning from County 039, Bungoma County. Matters development, matters economy is going to be part of our discussion that we'll be having with the Governor, Ken Lusaka, in the next 1 hour here in Bungoma County. Where we are right now is called Webuye, and Webuye just across is the busy street here, the busy diversion, and just behind me is actually this place is where we have a flyover. On your left, heading to Kakamega County, straight ahead heading to Bungoma itself, Bungoma town, but this is called Kwadina flyover here in Webuye town on the busy street, the Malaba Kektale route, Balaba Bungoma route here, and a lot is happening at this particular point. Kids are going to school already as we speak. Business people are already opening their wares here. Their shops are still opening up, and it just signifies a new dawn for the members of this community now that economy is one of the drivers of this nation. And therefore, one of the things that we'll be tackling with Governor Ken Lusaka in the next 1 hour is matters to do with economy, development, his development agenda, the hits and misses in his county. He just had his state of the county address yesterday at the county assembly. We'll be tackling some of those issues that he raised, starting from health, agriculture, education, revenue bill, etc., etc. So we are just going to take you back to Broadcasting House for more, and later on when we have our discussion with Ken Lusaka, the governor of County 039, he'll be telling us more on what should be expecting moving forward. Back to Regina at the Broadcasting House.
Well, as Victor said, that is going to be a candid conversation. And there's a question I'd want you to pose to Governor Ken Lusaka once you get that opportunity. Is that the government has spoken and said that, some stakeholders within the agriculture value chain have said that if the government does not allow imports of maize into the country, we might be facing a maize shortage in the next 2 months to April. I want you to pose that question to the governor, given that the main economic activity within Bungoma County is maize farming. Well, now Victor is going to tackle that and so much more. Now let's bring you back to speed, or rather bring you up to speed with those stories that have been making headlines in the last 24 hours. And we start off with matters of security and your health. where 3 people were arrested yesterday after they were nabbed in possession of medical supplies suspected to have been stolen from the public health facilities within Nairobi County. Separately, in a multi-agency team has unearthed an illegal liquor distillery in Athi River, Mavoko Sub-County. 16 people were arrested during the raid on the facility. Khalid Abdullahi with the details.
It was the end of the road for 3 suspects who were nabbed transporting medical supplies believed to have been sneaked out of public health facilities in Nairobi. In a joint operation team, Nairobi County officials and police officers, the trio were nabbed in Dagoretti North. Nairobi Governor Johnson Sakaja released a video of the 3 suspects. He said that they will serve as an example, cautioning cartels against stealing from the sick. Additionally, he said the county government has strengthened its vigilance as it works towards implementing the health management information systems. Meanwhile, in Machakos County, it was the 40th day for owners of an illegal liquor distillery in Athi River. A multi-agency team descended on the establishment and arrested 16 workers who were busy at the distillery. The arrest followed a tip-off from members of the public. The team also recovered fake Kenya Revenue Authority stamps, packed branded liquor and drums of ethanol. Athi River Deputy County Commissioner Charles Sombugu says the multi-agency has launched a major crackdown on illegal liquor distilleries, warning such entities endangers the lives of consumers.
We want to warn the members of the public that as we have always said and reiterated, we should be on the lookout and so that we ensure that whatever we are taking is healthy and fit for our bodies and our health.
Since that's an ongoing investigation, we'll be keeping tabs on the developments. Now to the corridors of justice, the court has granted the Director of Public Prosecutions and the Directorate of Criminal Investigations 15 days to file a report on whether or not to charge Maxine Wahome in connection to the death of rally driver Assad Khan. The court also upheld the objection by Assad's lawyers to close the file without a decision on whether or not Maxine will be charged with his death.
The Director of Public Prosecution, DPP, will on 7th March determine whether rally driver Maxine Wahome will be charged with rally ace Assad Khan's death. Milimani Senior Principal Magistrate Bernardo Choi noted that the DPP had not given progress of the case on whether to proceed with a murder charge against Maxine.
For the better part of the investigations, the respondent they've chosen to keep silent or remain silent and await the decision of the DPP and the investigating officer.
The detectives had initially intended to charge Maxine with causing grievous bodily harm, changed after Assad died in hospital from his injuries inflicted after the two had a scuffle. In the meantime, the court also directed police to surrender Assad's house back to its landlord. They have been treating the residence as a crime scene. Maxine, who was Assad's girlfriend, was arrested on December 12th last year after a fight they had with Assad's led to his hospitalization. Assad then died while undergoing treatment for his injuries. Maxine is currently out on a bond of 100,000 shillings.
Kenya and the European Union have signed 5-year trade agreements aimed at boosting fruits and avocado exports to the bloc. Nairobi and Brussels have also signed a 240 million shillings to support renewable energy projects in Kenya, especially in wind and solar power. President William Ruto has further nudged the EU to accelerate talks aimed at concluding the trade pact with the East African community. According to the Kenyan National Bureau of Statistics, the European Union is home to 15% of Kenya's total exports, valued at more than 400 billion shillings.
Ensure that all your partnerships, all your investments get its way into the deal book. And my commitment is that for all opportunities that are going to get into the deal book, I and my ministry will be able to follow up on a granular individual basis.
Nairobi and Brussels plan to deepen their trade and diplomatic ties by signing a much-delayed pact with the East African community that has stalled for more than 6 years.
For the EU Business Council, I want to state that doing business in Kenya is strategic and highly beneficial, literally in every way. This is why it is also important that the EU undertake a fresh push to conclude the Economic Partnership Agreement with East African Community.
Speaking during the ongoing EU-Kenya Trade Forum, President William Ruto has directed the Ministry of Trade to pick a team that will engage EU officials to fast-track the negotiations.
More than 700 people will discuss how to increase investment from the EU to Kenya.
The European Union says it has also opened trade talks with Kenya to increase exports of agricultural items, green energy, infrastructure and technology.
It is not possible, it is not prudent, it is not moral, it is not right to continue the path of coal-powered, fuel-powered growth.
Further, the European Investment Bank, the bloc's financial lender, will mobilize 240 million shillings to support hydrogen projects using wind and solar, as well as other renewable sources of power.
Kenya and the EU share the strive for a green economic transition based on innovation and digital connectivity.
The two-day EU Business Forum has brought together about 500 business people from Kenya and the European Union. Kenya is ready for business. Now, former President Uhuru Kenyatta is in Nigeria ahead of the country's general election. The former president was appointed to head the African Union Observation Mission for the elections, which are slated for the 25th of February. Nigerians will head to the polls to elect the president and the vice presidents, members of the Senate and the House of Representatives. It is considered the largest democratic exercise on the continent. Nigerians expect that the eventual winner of the presidential poll to hit the ground running in finding solutions to issues bedeviling Africa's most populous nation. Let our Oga brothers and sisters vote wisely. Now, let's focus on matters of legislation where troubled investment firm Saiton says it is exploring various options to raise funds to compensate thousands of aggrieved investors. The company has told Parliament that various litigations have derailed its payment plans with more than 3,800 investors in January, and the High Court has ordered the liquidation of various investment projects owned by Saiton Real Estate. In an effort to recover more than 14 billion shillings, the firm owes its investors.
In 2021, a section of investors who had saved with Saiton High Yield Solutions sued the company, accusing its directors of mismanaging their savings, valued at more than 10 billion shillings. The company sank into financial woes in 2020 after it failed to honor its obligations to investors with Saiton High Yield Solutions and in the Saiton Real Estate project. The company blamed the COVID-19 pandemic, which impacted demand for its projects in Nairobi and Kiambu counties, after panicked investors withdrew their savings before maturity.
Money went exactly where it's supposed to go. I think there's a member who had asked whether we put money elsewhere. No, all the money went into real estate as it was supposed to go into real estate. Each of these special purpose vehicles has audited accounts. That's why most of the allegations will be verbal. They will not be documentary evidence saying, oh, we did an audit and here is a problem.
Members of Parliament summoned the officials of the company to understand what plans it has put in place to compensate investors, even as some lawmakers push for a forensic audit on the whole investment group. Saiton Chief Executive Officer Edwin Dande told the committee no funds have been lost, with its payment plan derailed by ongoing court cases.
Since we got the preservation orders, even if you sell, nobody will buy because they cannot get title until we have lifted the preservation orders. So the affected products are not selling, the unaffected products are still selling.
The High Court last month ordered the liquidation of investment projects owned by Saiton Real Estate, allowing the sale of its properties in an effort to recover more than 14 billion shillings the firm owes to its 4,000 investors.
With real estate, unless we solve the industry issues, have a regulator anchored in law, have ways we can deal with deposits, allow capital markets to function, hopefully it won't be Saiton, but there will be another real estate developer that will come here for petitions because we have industry issues that remain unresolved.
Saiton Investment is now welcoming an audit of all its operations. CEO insists no petitioner can prove the allegations of conmanship. Reporting from Parliament, I'm Gishoke Washira.
From that update from Parliament, an update coming in is that the death toll from the Turkey earthquake, the total last week, 2 weeks back, and also what happened the day before yesterday, the death toll currently stands at 47,000. Now to the business scene is that the National Biosafety Authority will utilize informal barazas to sensitize the public on GMO foods that have attracted debate on their safety for human consumption. Some legislators have supported cultivation and consumption of GMO foods and urged policymakers to compel companies to clearly label products with any GMO components to reduce stigma surrounding its adoption.
Kenya lifted a 10-year ban on GMOs in October last year as a means of enhancing food security, since the crops are pest and drought resistant and offer higher yields. However, critics question safety of the GMOs and long-term impacts on the environment and the food value chain.
Of course, there are still some skeptics. There are people who still feel we are not ready as a country. We do not have the adequate regulatory framework. We may not have the right human resource capacity.
If this is true, I don't understand really. How did we get to a point that a country that has enjoyed GM in medicine and everything else is struggling with GM food?
Even though some legislators have backed the adoption of GMOs to boost food production and reduce reliance on imports, they are calling for more research.
The word GMO is not very clear to Kenyans.
We're already consuming a lot of GMOs. And if the GMOs, whatever the genes or genomes as you call them, are extracted to ensure that we are at least managing some of these ailments, then why does it become a problem at some point? These are the issues we need to address so that we move forward.
They believe misinformation about GMOs have been spread and there is need to sensitize the public, especially those in remote areas, about biotech crops.
Go to the counties and make this kind of presentation even in Swahili or any other language that may be found appropriate.
As the GMO debate rages on, sensitization of the public is very much required to ease stigma there. Now, the Ministry of Cooperatives and MSMEs Development has signed a deal with the Council of Governors to empower, support and strengthen the agricultural cooperatives that are key in processing and marketing of crops. Cooperatives and MSME Development CS Simon Chelagui says under the deal, county governments have resolved to set up one-stop shops that will offer information and training to agricultural value chain players.
The agriculture sector contributes about a third of the gross domestic product and employs 70% of the rural population. To strengthen and streamline support to agricultural cooperatives, the Ministry of Cooperatives and MSME Development has signed a partnership with the Council of Governors that will see devolved units setting up one-stop shops.
They have also agreed to adaptation of technologies and transformation strategy, and we have agreed to collaborate in revitalization of key agricultural chains.
Noting that the deal is key in revamping operations in agricultural cooperatives that play a key role in processing and marketing major crops such as cotton, pyrethrum, coffee, and edible oils, he lauded counties that were supporting the cooperative movement.
Counties like Elgeyo Marakwet, the governor has appointed or nominated and deployed cooperative officers in every ward. to support and deepen cooperative movement. In Nyeri County, they have allocated a budget of 10 million to train cooperative officers and the cooperative leaders.
The Kenya National Police Deposit-Taking SACCO says its net income for the last year grew by 13.5% to 22.7 million shillings.
Society's assets grew to 48.9 billion, up from 44 billion in the year 2021. Revenues grew by 12.9% to Kenya shillings 7.9 billion.
And in Mombasa, Kenya Union of Savings and Credit Cooperatives Limited says SACCOs are owed 4.2 billion shillings in unremitted members' deductions from state-owned enterprises and defunct municipal councils, which is impacting their operations. Cusco says SACCOs could be forced to invoke the law if negotiations to recover the defaulted amount fails.
Laws that exist, for example, in Cooperative Societies Act, CAP 490, Section 35, it empowers the Commissioner to freeze the accounts of the offending entities who are not remitting deductions to the SACCOs.
Now we will also be taking you to Bungoma, just in case you missed that particular intro with Victor, along who is going to be engaging the leadership of Bungoma County, that is none other than Governor Ken Lusaka, on his vision for the county, as well as what is happening on ground when it comes to matters of development. For now, we take a quick breather. We'll be right back.
What happened? What's this? Going to the site today?
Whether I go or not is not your business. Just focus on your own matters.
Nothing's bothering you? It seems like something's bothering you.
There is. But now is not the right time to tell you. Give me some time. I'll think it through and make up my mind about what to do. I'll tell you everything.
Why is it being so weird again, without any reason? Yeah?
Just a little girl from the ghetto. Hear my retro. Stepping at them dancing the clocks. When the rest of them a beat them stiletto.
Dirty heart can't sweep with broom. Good and never. They are like the trees we can't bloom. Good and never.
Under the pressure, under the pressure. Yeah, under the pressure, under the pressure.
They won't let us see him. They won't let us see. He could be hurt.
Help. Haji sasa.
Nataka tu kujua kile unajua kuhusu hii story.
Oh, mwambie aende. Sitaki kumuona. Nimechoka na hii familia, Mom. I'm tired of this family. I'm tired of seeing Calvin hurt. And I'm tired of seeing Dad go through pain because of what Calvin is going through. I'm tired. I shouldn't have left him by himself. He wouldn't have tried to hurt himself.
Mom, you can't start blaming yourself for this.
I shouldn't have left him with you.
Good morning, I'm Regina Manyara and this is In the Headlines. Speaking business, as short-term rentals in urban centers are popular with Kenyan investors who seek regular returns from investments that are flexible enough for inflation adjustments. Mivida Homes, the CEO Samuel Kariuki, says the demand for Airbnbs in urban centers is rising, especially for studio and one-bedroom units, since they are easy to maintain and short-term stays gives owners more flexibility.
Steady demand for air bed and breakfast, commonly known as Airbnbs in urban centers due to their lower costs and flexibility as compared to rated hotels, is making them a lucrative market segment for housing developers and investors. The studio and one-bedroom units, which mostly act as Airbnbs, are said to offer regular returns for investors. For holiday makers, the Airbnb are popular since they offer cheaper options for short-term stays for those visiting urban centers and tourist destinations.
Invest in real estate. It's a good class of assets to hold. It's important from a long-term investment and also from having an annuity income on a monthly basis. Always have in your portfolio a real estate product. The best segment today in real estate is the affordable. Again, that is a no-brainer. Just given where the market is, the demand for rental is deep.
He says rental properties allows for inflation adjustments, which makes it attractive, unlike other investments whose proceeds are fixed and vulnerable to inflation.
Trade and diplomatic ties between Kenya and Australia are set to deepen following the opening of a new Australian High Commission in Nairobi. Foreign Affairs Cabinet Secretary Alfred Mutua pointed out Kenya's strategic positioning and ease of connectivity and called on Australian businesses to take advantage of.
Kenyan imports from Australia totaled $67.5 million in 2020, while exports were at $24 million. The main products that Kenya imported from Australia were wheat, salt, and sorghum, while the main products that Kenya exported to Australia were cut flowers, coffee, and sowing seeds. Trade between the two countries is projected to grow following the opening of a new chancery by Australia's Assistant Minister for Foreign Affairs, Tim Watts, in Nairobi. In a statement, Tim Watts said the opening of the new commission serves as a base for Australia's relationships with Burundi, Rwanda, Somalia, Tanzania, and Uganda, to which Australia is accredited. Watts says that the work of this High Commission will build on Australia's cooperation with Kenya to respond to global challenges and deepen combined efforts on economic, multilateral, environmental, and security issues. Foreign Affairs Cabinet Secretary Dr. Alfred Mutua says the High Commission building is a symbol of renewed commitment to continue strengthening friendship, mutual trust, and enhance implementation of development cooperation between the two nations for mutual benefit.
The county government of Kakamega has begun supplying monosex tilapia fingerlings to support fish production in ponds. Over 500 farmers in Kakamega County are among beneficiaries in 15 devolved units to get 1,000 fingerlings in a program aimed at increasing smallholder aquaculture development.
The Aquaculture Business Development Program is jointly funded by the government and the International Fund for Agricultural Development, meant to boost fish production.
Tuna uwezo wa kusalisha milioni 2 fingerlings kwa mwezi, na hii ni kwa sababu tumekuwa na uwezo huo. Ni county government ya Kakamega imeweza kutupatia support, na tumekuwa na uwezo wa kusupply fingerlings ambazo tunaweza kusaidia wakulima wetu kwa ajili ya ufugaji wa samaki.
Under the program that targets farmers in 15 counties, selected farmers will each be given 1,000 monosex tilapia fingerlings.
Samaki sio kitu cha kubahatisha, samaki ni utajiri kwa ujumla. Samaki nimepatiwa na account sasa hivi. Samaki andeletua ndaongeza, hii nimepatiwa ni 1,000.
Kufikia Jumanne wiki lijalo, ambapo tutaona ya kwamba kila sub-count wakulima ambao walikuwa identified na ABTP department program wameweza kupewa hizi fingerlings.
Kisii, Siaya, Busia and Kisumu are among the targeted counties for the production that seeks to promote fish production in ponds through provision of fingerlings and feed.
Now we delve into the sporting arena where the triumphant Kenyan team to the just concluded World Athletics Cross Country Championship in Bathurst, Australia is home. Now Kenya reclaimed the World Athletics Cross Country title after bagging a total of 10 medals, 6 gold, 2 silver and 2 bronze. The 6 gold medals included 3 team and 3 individual titles. Team Kenya won a gold in the senior women category through Beatrice Chebet, junior men courtesy of Ishmael Kipkirui, and mixed relay, Reynold Kipkorir Cheriot won silver in the junior men and bronze through Agnes Jebet Ngetich and Pamela Kosgei in the senior women and junior women categories respectively. Now to it is gaining traction here in the country, and we're speaking about none other than Kabaddi, where the Githurai Cheetahs registered their 9th win after thrashing Kiambu Plackers 65-46 in the ongoing Kabaddi League at the Kasarani Indoor Gymnasium. The league will be used to select the national team that will participate in the forthcoming International Kabaddi Championship set to be held in March in Bangladesh.
Githurai Cheetahs bagged crucial point after registering a comfortable 65-38 win over Kiambu Plackers. Rogers Omonti of Githurai Cheetahs was named a man of the match following his stellar performance.
Teamwork ni muhimu. Tumekuwa tukipiga zoezi. Mchana tunawaka on our defense sana. Reading inakuanga tu ya wawili ama moja, but mainly the defense. So tumekuwa tukitrain ndio tupate ushindi, alafu communication pia muhimu kwa
first leg tuliwagonga, second leg my players wamefanya some mistakes to zimetucost a lot, especially second half. Hiyo imefanya to lost to kafungua hiyo gap second half.
In other match, University of Nairobi lost 62-43 to Kayole Giants, while Kenyatta University humbled Kasarani Lions 67-58. The tournament culminates on 28th of this month, with second leg expected to be held in May. 2 bottom place sides will be relegated, while other 2 sides will gain promotion to feature in the second leg of the Allied Championship. The league is being used to select national team that will participate in the forthcoming International Kabaddi Championship set to be held in March in Bangladesh. Kingori Mwangi for Channel 1 Sports.
Since on Sundays we cover most stories on sports, and Monday we speak sports. This is a question that has been asked by you, our viewers, on social media platforms as well as on interactions. Is that exactly what is Kabaddi? From those shots there, you can see if you played or grew up in the 80s, there's a game that we referred to as Chako, where you actually touch your opponent, they have to touch you and freeze and such. So Kabaddi, in essence, without saying so much, because I'm also trying to understand how the game works, looks something similar like that. Congratulations to the Githurai Cheetahs there for their 9th win. Now we take you overseas and back to Qatari, but not for the World Cup, but now we're speaking tennis, where Andy Murray saved 3 match points and won a final set tie break to beat Lorenzo in the first round of the Qatari Open. Britain's Liam Brody also progressed to the second round by beating Ukraine's Olensky Krutuk.
Winning service game to love as Sonego went on to claim the first set before Murray raced to the second to level the match. Murray saved 3 break points when he went down in the decider and then came back from 3-0.
Well, our website is up and running for further details on stories that are making headlines on matters business, sports, as well as what is happening locally in our political scene. That puts a couple matters in the headlines. I hand you over to the rest of the team to just sample quickly what the various scribes have prioritized in their dailies this morning, and also to remind you to keep it right here for that candid conversation all the way live from Bungoma, where my colleague Victor Law is going to be engaging none other than the Bungoma Governor, Ken Lusaka on his development agenda, as well as emerging issues when it comes to his administration and development within the area. So do keep it right here. I'm Regina Manyara, and I wish you a pleasant viewing ahead.
Still,
All right, we apologize for that. We are saying welcome back. We still continue right here on Good Morning Kenya. Thank you so much for sticking with us. Now, let's take a look at what is making headlines in our papers. With the read here on this side of the studio, where I have the People Daily, I have the Standard.
Yeah, definitely the Star as well as the Daily Nation.
Yeah, so you kickstart off, you
Definitely.
kickstart.
We kickstart.
Kickstart.
What is it? What is the kicking or the starting?
I was almost saying you kickstart.
Okay, we kickstart.
Kickstart.
All right, very quickly, just skimming through what the Daily Nation is holding for you this Wednesday morning. The flag there, storm over constituency boundaries. That is what the Daily Nation is largely or extensively covering for you this Wednesday. Just talking about the review of borders, which has stalled because of dysfunctional electoral commission, a dispute over secret crucial document, and supremacy war between rival political formation. Remember that the new IEBC, the set of commissioners that will be formed, they will not only be tasked with elections, of course, that is the 2027 general elections, and just any mini or by-election that might occur between now and then, but largely they will also be tasked with the review of boundaries, which normally happens every either 8 to 12 years, and this is supposed to be taking place next year. So that is one of the biggest matters they will be tasked with. And as it stands, there's still that row between this selection or appointments of commissioners, the selection panel. Some different institutions have already proffered their names, but just going by the two main factions, of course, the Kenya Kwanza and Azimio, there's still that quite push and pull as far as the selection panel is concerned. And over time, you really had Azimio talking about the fact that Kenya Kwanza is sort of like taking this as a preserve of their own as far as the selection panel is concerned. But we also fully know well the IEBC Amendment Act was passed by both houses of parliament, and that is what has provided for these various institutions to prefer the different names who will be put in place for the selection panels that will be involved in the recruitment process of this IEBC commissioners. That's basically what the Daily Nation is covering for you as far as this storm over constituency boundaries is concerned.
And still coming back to the People Daily here, on the front page of the People Daily, Raila critics in CAS shortlist. Raila critics in CAS shortlist. Who will it be? Ruto likely to get free hand in picking candidates who will tame his rival. He also has a large pool of experts, allies to choose from as he seeks to consolidate his government. Full report is covered on that particular paper. That's the People Daily. 28th of February is the deadline for the public to submit memoranda on candidates. The number of people shortlisted for interviews after the court quashed this case is coming up to a total of 224. And on 1st of March this year, that is the date when the interviews by the Public Service Commission are set to kick off. Raila critics in CAS shortlist. That is one story that is on the front page of the People Daily, also covered on the Standard newspaper, Doreen. If you look at that particular shortlisting, many were shortlisted, including our very own Bonnie Musambi. Ruto's CAS headache as he juggles between allies and getting job done. That is on the 4th page of the Standard newspaper. Let's take a look at that particular story here. President William Ruto is running out of slices of the national cake available to share out with his allies, and the season of great expectations is coming to an end. The next few weeks we'll see a lot of gnashing of teeth between the slots because the slots are too few for the expansive hopefuls, and of equal importance is the will that is in his will is that he should prioritize rewards against service delivery. Is this the case that he should be looking up to? Of equal importance is, will he prioritize the rewards against service delivery? Now, some 224 applicants, many of whom are his loyalists, who supported his presidential bid but who lost in the last year's general election, are awaiting appointments as the chief administrative secretaries of different positions. They made it out of a pool of over 5,000 who applied for the different positions. Who will get it, who will not? Remember, the Mount Kenya region has the majority in the shortlists. Okay, the Mount Kenya region has a majority. Some allies who will have to shed premium tears as the slots are too few to be shared around. So here we're looking at this slice of the national cake, Doreen. Is the cake becoming too small? Is it getting over? Will everybody get a piece of this particular cake? That is on the Standard.
Is the cake becoming too small? And for me, I would just, even from a journalistic perspective, would really want to understand what is this that the courts found unconstitutional then, that they're finding constitutionality now as far as this chief administrative secretary position is concerned. You did rightfully put it, there, Ram, and what the People Daily or the Standard, has covered there. 5,000.
Actually, both of them.
Both of them, right. I mean, 5,000 applicants for chief administrative secretary positions. The previous regime did have about 29 CASs. The question being proffered or asked is, how many CASs will this regime or the Ruto regime put in place? There's talk of either between 21, 22, at the very most 23. And also these 5,000, only 224 have been shortlisted. So if we are talking about 23 persons out of 224, good question you did ask there. Who's going to be making it on the list?
And I'm looking at
Who's going to be making it on the list?
and I'm looking at some of the people that have managed to make it to the list.
The big names?
Big names that have come up there.
Political leaders?
Political leaders, some journalists.
Yes, oh yes. Former governors?
Former governors, former MPs. And if you look at this particular shortlisting, even those that I did not think like someone like Dennis Itumbi could make it there, but he did it. For being loyal to the president, I believe he managed to grab that. People like Dennis Itumbi, Bonnie Musambi. Bonnie Musambi was actually a former anchor of Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. But see, that's the thing also that is coming to the fore, that are these positions, just coming out as positions to reward loyalists. And again, the biggest question that is being asked as far as that is concerned was the fact that this government has been very big on austerity measures. So then if we have this more positions, because again, you can also take cognizance of the fact that also, again, when you look at the previous regime, we had just about 42 PSs. Exactly. In this one, we have, is it 51 or 52? A slight addition of about 9 to 10. We're looking at, again, CASs slightly above 20. So when you talk about austerity measures, how will we realize this with this many positions? Because you see, the many positions simply means more money in terms of payments, in terms of salaries, in terms of allowances and all that. But I mean, this remains a matter of wait and see. And also, What about those who will not make it? What happens to them?
Is what we call political cold for the next 5 years. But we wish them all the best for those.
Should we expect those who will not have made it to be given other positions? Should we expect that?
Which other positions are this? You know, there's something in politics called about the political cold. You might stay there for 5 years, 10 years, depending. But we just want to say we wish the very best to all those who've been shortlisted.
Exactly.
Mungu mbele.
We wish them the very best. Mungu mbele.
All right.
Still on the Standard, we have agony of teachers rejected at new schools. Matters concerning education there. Several head teachers and principals in parts of Nyanza region who were transferred to new institutions are on the edge after they were rejected by a section of parents and school boards. Remember, this is still in connection with the matters concerning the KBC and the JSS issues. These teachers rejected. What happens then? Agony of principals locked out of schools. That is on the Standard. Several head teachers and principals in parts of the Nyanza region who are transferred to new institutions are not sitting pretty after the parents of and the boards of the institutions rejected them. The institutions have been turned into battlegrounds by parents and local residents. The protests mostly revolve around performance in the KCSE examinations, where some of the parents complain about the performance of the particular exam that took place in the last year. Since schools reopened in January, some institutions in particular Homa Bay, Migori and Kisii have turned into battlegrounds as parents block the principals from reporting to their new workplaces. At least 10 schools are still struggling with the school heads narrating the painful ordeals they have had to endure. Will this affect the performance of these particular institutions in the long run? Does it have a ripple effect on the performance of these students? Will it affect the coverage of their curriculum? Time will tell. That is what is in the headlines this morning.
Right, and just bringing you back to the Daily Nation, matters of food security have equally taken shape in this particular daily. One of those main reads there, cheaper food on the way as state allows duty-free imports. This story has been tucked away from page 7 all the way through 9. You can imagine just highlighting the issues of food security in the country, looking at various interventions employed by the state, what they're still mulling over as far as bridging the divide is concerned, looking at importing about 580,000 tons of duty-free food items. You remember that late last year there was that particular conversation of importation of maize, sugarcane, rice as well, and this had elicited quite the concern there from particularly farmers in different areas just doing this kind of farming, because then there was a question, if this was going to be imported, where does it leave farmers? However, manufacturers are opposing this move, arguing that it will lead to unfair competition and loss of market. You have heard the CS Trade. In fact, this is just said yesterday during the EU summit that maybe it's about time we even change the name from Kenya Association of Manufacturers to Kenya Association of Importers because of this imports over time. But it's really quite the divide to think about. And just Regina earlier on did talk about this a bit, and she said that it's one of those questions that she would really want Victor to ask the governor of Bungoma County, given the fact that we'll be crossing over there in a short while. And it's one of those counties where agriculture is the main economic activity. Talk about maize, talk about sugarcane. There was that concern that in the next, is it 2 or 2.5 months, if you don't import this, then we might just be staring again at the shortage of maize in the country. So really, it's quite the divide to try and bridge that and meet that. But we wait to see what the state will do, what different various counties are equally doing as far as this is concerned. But also, just before we get over to the Star and also the People Daily, there's really quite an interesting story. Should I say interesting, or is it a tough story, or just difficult? This is in regards to what is happening in the medical front as well as the judiciary, because now as it stands, SRC is looking into abolishing non-practice allowances for medics and judges. This story, in fact, is both in the Star and the Daily Nation, both on the front pages of this particular daily. And what these various stakeholders are decrying is the fact that there was no public participation in regards to this particular thought or idea. In fact, KMPDU is saying that this is a wrong move. We are looking at allowances of these various professions, which if the SRC continues with this particular move, then these allowances might just be scrapped off. Why I look at this story is a bit interesting is because there's been the concern there when you look at the medics or the medical departments. In fact, about 2 or 3 months back, correct, KMPD of a strike. However, it looks like they had retracted it, and this they kept saying is issue of payments, non-payments, allowances not remitted, the issue of too much work with less personnel. Just about a week ago, we had a story that was covering about 4,000 doctors who had not been employed, and just about the same time, there's a doctor who killed himself because of the same issue. So there's quite a lot happening in this particular front in the medics, on the medical service in the country. And then you look at what the SRC is putting forth, or what they're broaching, the issue of perhaps reducing their allowances. I mean, really is quite a lot happening in this particular field. But just before we continue further with what the different dailies are highlighting for you, including reviewing law of impeachment for governors, Ram, what is People Daily having for us?
I'm looking at what you've just mentioned there, Doreen.
Oh, yes.
On that previous story on GMOs, a conversation that is quite sensitive, intense, and debatable. How many products do we have in Kenya that are genetically modified? We need to have that particular conversation. How many products do we have in Kenya that are genetically modified? And that's a conversation that we need to have. What about drugs? What about food? What about things we use on a daily basis? Well, these are some of the questions that are we need to ask ourselves, and of course, those are some of the stories that are making headlines. We just want to take a short break, Doreen, and then we'll be back with more right here on Good Morning Kenya. We were just taking a look at what are in the headlines. But keep it KBC. We have more coming up your way.
Stepping at them dancing the clocks. When the rest of them a beat them still at up.
Dirty heart can't sweep with broom. Good and never. They are like the trees we can't bloom. Good and never.
Under the pressure, yeah, under the pressure, under the pressure.
They won't let us see him. They won't let us see. He could be hurt.
Help. Haji sasa. Nataka tu kujua kile unajua kuhusu hii story.
Oh, mwambie aende. Sitaki kumuona. Nimechoka na hii familia, Mom. I'm tired of this family. I'm tired of seeing Calvin hurt. And I'm tired of seeing Dad go through pain because of what Calvin is going through. I'm tired. I shouldn't have left him by himself. He wouldn't have tried to hurt himself.
Mom, you can't start blaming yourself for this.
I shouldn't have left him with you.
Enjoy a selection of the best. Regina Ray and Tingazi.
Bado jamwambia unamlike. Mrealize jamwachilia mkono kutoka nikuje hapa.
Love blossoms in Mexico with the Trier sisters in Las Bandidas.
I beg you, please don't go.
I want you to be the happiest man in the world with a woman who appreciates and respects you.
An array of music rave.
Make me lie when I don't want to.
Blues.
You are my everything.
Two local gems. And we sit to chat with the Diambo.
You know, I can't even tell whether you're looking at me, seeing me. With the Louis Vuitton.
Classic comedy.
Makono tu. Mashabiki. That
again. Enjoy the Divas programming this February only on KBC Channel 1. Kenya's watching.
Welcome back. We continue apace with the dailies, covering for you what the various dailies we have, what they are covered for you this Wednesday morning. The Star, People Daily, Daily Nation, as well as the Standard. And I did talk about that impeachment law, where there's now concerns, I should say, this should be concerns, particularly from a sexual, multi-sectoral of leaders, just looking at perhaps we need to review the law of impeachment. And this just emanates from, the supremacy battles between the governors and the MCAs, having major challenges for leaders in the devolved units. Definitely this coming up as a result of what we did see late last year, as far as the impeachment motion that had been proffered against the Meru governor, that is Kawira Mwangaza. Of course, it didn't see light of day because the Senate did shut it down. You remember also the previous regime, there had been the same kind of issues and concerns with the current governor of Kirinyaga, who also did serve in her first term, that is Governor Anne Waiguru, Ferdinand Waititu, who had been impeached, and also here in Nairobi, the former governor, Mike Sonko. So there's just concerns and talks of perhaps we need to review this particular law of impeachment, that up until when can a governor be impeached, based on what standards, merits, demerits, and and so forth. And this particular article equally well covers and highlights that, especially as far as devolution is concerned. And also state jobs. Raila accuses Ruto of tribalism. I mean, really, there's quite a lot happening in the political scenes. There's a lot of push and pull with the two major factions. Azimio leader now accusing president of sidelining communities that voted against him in the 2022 general election. This definitely comes about from that statement that was made by the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua in Kericho late last week, where he was talking about wale walivuna watapanda, wale wakuvuna wakati uliofaa watangoja kidogo. So it looks like this particular statement has just drawn different understandings from different political class leaders, talking about issues of sharing in the government of different political positions, talking about issues of development in different parts of the country. And so this is what the Azimio leader is saying, that there's a bit of sideline, particularly for those communities that did not heavily vote for this particular government. And
still today, that matter is also covered on the People Daily, where today, according to the People Daily, opposition leader Raila Odinga will this morning lead his troops in yet another anti-President William Ruto prayer rally at Jivanji Gardens in Nairobi.
These prayer rallies and the anti-government rallies, it makes me wonder, are we sliding back slowly to campaign mode as opposed to constantly focusing on what ails you and I as a Kenyan and the development projects in different parts of the country? I don't know.
What is the role of opposition?
And what is the role of the church? Because you also look at some of this, the interdenominational meetings.
Yeah.
I can tell you for sure you won't miss a political statements in these gatherings, and over time, in fact, we have been trying to look even as a media, as media, I should say, what really is the role of the church in the political class?
During the weekend, and this is quite interesting because Kenyans on Twitter are an interesting lot. A certain phrase was trending, the praying mantis. Praying mantis. I know you know that animal, the praying mantis, and they were doing that in mockery of President William Ruto. Well, these are just some of the things that we need to have conversations on. I'm being told that we need to head over to Bungoma, right, Doreen?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we need to go to Bungoma. The conversation you've all been waiting for, we have been waiting for this particular hot discussion right here on Good Morning Kenya today. A live interview with Bungoma Governor. That is none other than His Excellency Ken Lusaka with Victor Olo, who traveled to Bungoma yesterday. We now head over to that particular conversation right here on Good Morning Kenya, live from Bungoma County. Victor, over to you.
All right, good morning, and that much awaited interview is here with us right now. Good morning, this is Good Morning Kenya, an extended version of this program now coming to you live all the way from County 039. I must admit for the second time, it's cold. It's pretty cold here. But you know why? Because we're just right at the foot of Mount Elgon. We're a blessed lot, all right? Welcome to the program. On set, we have Governor Ken Lusaka, who is going to be talking about national politics, his development agenda, the far he's made this particular county to go, with a population of around 1.6 million people as per the 2019 consensus. What is his agenda for this beautiful county of Bungoma? Welcome to the program. Can I call you Speaker, Governor?
All those are my titles. I have been a district officer, I have been a district commissioner, I have worked in office of the president in charge of provincial administration, I have a permanent secretary in the Ministry of Livestock, I have been a governor, speaker of the Senate, and back as a governor. So I think all those are my titles, but as we speak now, I am the governor of Bungoma County.
Thank you. It's a beautiful county. Pretty cold. How is it so far? 160 days in office?
So far so good. I came back to space that I know. So far so good. Of course, a bit of challenges here and there, trying to realign what I want to do from the previous administration. Right. In my first term, there was a trajectory that I had taken, and there were things that I did and I intended to do for 10 years, but I had that break. So I'm trying to come back or realign what was happening back to my manifesto and the things that I promised the people of Bungoma during the campaigns. But so far so good.
Were they interfered?
Yes, a lot of things were interfered with. For example, I had a system, a governance system, for example, as provided for in the County Government Act. I had the sub-county administrators, the ward administrators. Of course, they put in the village administrators, but when they came, the county administrators. So I'm in the process of again reappointing village sub-county administrators, filling the gaps where we have ward administrators, and then also making sure that we get the right village administrators, because the village administrators that were recruited were never trained. Most of them were used for campaign purposes, so they don't even understand why they were recruited. That's why one of my first things I'm going to do is to train them and build their capacity for them to understand that the administrators are not politicians. Right.
And this, of course, is going to go a long way, because, first of all, you have to go out of all the 9 sub-counties here and pick them. Whilst you're doing that, how do you balance, because Bungoma County is cosmopolitan in some sort of way, how do you balance them while you're doing your nomination, your appointment, and subsequent filling of those positions?
You're right that Bungoma is a cosmopolitan. 5 main tribes. We have the Bukusu. We have the Bukusus, who are the majority. We have the Sabots. We have the Tachonis. We have the Tesos, and we have the Baturas. Like the Tesos and the others, these are considered the minorities. So even in my appointments, I have made sure that I cover all those sub-tribes, and then we have, of course, other tribes like the Kikuyus and others who have settled here. For example, my deputy governor is from the Sabot community. It's a lady from Mount Elgon. I have also, while recruiting the CCs, I have incorporated the Tachonis, the Baturas have also been accommodated in terms of. I ensure that I bring everybody on board, because why devolution came into place, one, if you look at the constitution, was to also accommodate the marginalized, people who are disadvantaged, for example, people living with the disabilities, the women. And the moment you leave those out, then they don't benefit from the fruits of devolution. So in my administration, in my first term, and even now, I have made sure that those factors are taken, they're taken care of. Right.
Whilst you're doing your nomination, of course, you're filling those gaps. Have you factored in the 2,000 gender rule?
Yes, I have. If you don't know, Bungoma is a very litigious county. If you don't do that, the next day somebody will be in court to challenge your nomination. And that's why sometimes I take a bit of time. But I have factored in at all levels, people living with a disability, the youth, and the women. In my cabinet, that I have made that threshold. And in all the other appointments that we are making, I make sure that I achieve that to avoid litigation, to avoid being taken to court, because going through a court again just delays service delivery. Yes.
You're the speaker of the Senate, and the debate of the 2,000 rule is still a hard nut to crack, even as we speak. And even the president is also moving towards that, achieving the 2,000 rule, even his appointment. The question is, how have you balanced that act so carefully so that you don't find, people, bring a lot of chaos going to court and stalling your appointment for the cabinet?
It is normally the most difficult thing, especially in Bungoma. But I've managed to do that because, one, you have to make sure, what I've done is there is representation from all the 9 sub-counties. There's a CC from all the 9. Since there are 10, sometimes I do what we call head hunting. When I want a specific, for example, I'm looking for a certain quality, for example, CC finance, because that's a very critical person that you need. So I have navigated very well and made sure that at least I meet the threshold. By looking at, for example, when I say I've picked somebody, say a person from education or agriculture, I'll say when there's a stalemate kind of, I'll call the leaders in the spirit of consultation. I'll call the leaders from that area and I tell them, for example, if it is Webuye East, I want a youth from this sub-county. So the youth, we must narrow down to that sub-county. So that's how I've done it. I'll call a leader and tell them, I want somebody with a disability from this particular area with these skills. So we try to make sure that we get somebody of that quality so that I get that balance. Because it's important, it's constitutional, and I don't want to go against the constitution or to be dragged into court. Yes.
Before I get into development agenda, Governor, somebody would ask, why did you leave the work of the Senate, of the Speaker of the National Senate, and back to Bungoma County? What prompted that move?
One, there was a lot of public.
That's what politicians say.
No. But if it was a lie, I would not have made it. So I think if it was a lie, I would not have made it. To be very sincere, there was a lot of public pressure. People compared. When we came in the first time in 2013, there was no comparison. We were like venturing into virgin land. Nobody had been a governor. Nobody had done devolution. So when they now compared what I did, the milestones that I had during my first term and my successor, I think people missed me, number one. Number two, due to that public demand and also my desire to serve people, because if you look at my background, I have been in administration all my life, in civil service. My life in public service, serving the people. And there's nothing as gratifying or satisfying as serving your people, because there are things that you can do that touch the people. You pass a road and people say, this road was done by Lusaka, our governor. I was given this dairy animal by Lusaka. This health facility was built by Lusaka. You see, you touch people's lives directly. Senate was very good as a speaker. It gives you that national exposure. It gives you the international exposure. But again, in terms of touching the lives of the people, governors, I mean, as a governor, you do that directly. There was a missing link somewhere. And also, what I've also realized, because every step you make, there's some experience. There's nothing as good as having the people support. Nobody will threaten you. Nobody will just wake up and say, threaten you with an impeachment or something like that, because you have the people support. So a job given to you by people is more satisfying, is more reliable than, just being appointed and being given this position. Anybody will do that. So I think those two informed my decision to come back as a governor.
Absolutely. And the achievements in the Senate, a couple of bills,
of course,
House, some of them collapsed.
Of course, they collapsed because we know, like when Senate or Parliament, that's National Assembly or Senate, go on adjourn synod, it means you're not going for elections or something like that. Some of those bills collapse, but I'm happy that a lot of things also went through. Like we were able to implement Senate Mashinani. Senate Mashinani is taking the Senate to the people. We went to Asinigisho Eldoret, we went to Kitui, and then COVID came in and disrupted that. But that was something that was really interesting. Most of our people, because they would come and ask the questions. There were pro-devolution bills that we passed. For example, Assumption of Office Bill, which made it very clear how do you take over. For example, because there was that gap. It was not clear. Now a governor will lose an election and then he just disappears. He can decide to go with all the assets that belong to the county. So we streamlined that, and many other pro-devolution bills that we passed. So I was proud to have presided over the Senate, the 12th Senate at that point in time.
And a majority of the senators who are there, have also transitioned to governors.
Yes, over 9 senators
have
come to be governors, and and vice versa. So I think the devolution family. One thing that I'm very happy is that now we're just going around. It's like a merry-go-round. You find senators who have become governors who have become senators, and members of parliament who have gone to be senators or governors, and that kind of thing. That is the way it should be, that you don't know where you are, because in the past we have had people, for example, condemning the Senate, condemning National Assembly. Then you end up finding yourself as a member of the National Assembly or a member of the Senate. Then you wonder what.
That's at some point now you'll be needed to work together. Yes, we do need to work. But Governor, one critical bill that you worked on is the county revenue share. Yes. And you had a lot of long meetings with the president, with the stakeholders, to get the revenue share for different counties. As we speak, some of the counties have not received their share for the last 3, 4, 5 months, thereabout. I don't know what's your stand for Bungoma County.
Yeah, we have those challenges of resources. Even when we had a meeting at the summit last month, one of the sticky issues is the timely disbursement of funds to the counties. And the president has pronounced himself on this. He has said Treasury should disburse funds in a timely manner to enable counties function. But we understand, of course, there have been these challenges of, that's why you have had the president emphasizing the issues of people paying taxes. Because I think there's been a challenge in terms of raising taxes, because it's through the taxes that we now get the shareable revenue coming to the counties. So there's been a bit of delay, which really interferes with the performance, because if the money doesn't come on time, then it delays our programs in terms of what we have planned to do. Sometimes it delays salaries, but we don't mind so much about salaries. But again, these are the people who are implementing the programs that we have. But the most important are, paying, for example, the contractors, paying those service providers to the county. So there's been a bit of delay, but we are happy that we can see some improvement. Unlike in the past, where I'm told, the time I was away, it was taking even 2 or 3 months before funds are disbursed to the counties. But now there is some improvement, but we just want to urge the National Treasury to try their level best to disburse the funds to the counties in a timely manner, as stipulated in the Constitution. Because we don't hear of funds delaying in the national government, so why should that happen to the counties?
With your experience from the Senate, what are some of the bottlenecks? Because at some point you'd go to the committees, do consultation with the Treasury, with the COG. What are some of the bottlenecks that actually delays the disbursement of these funds to the counties?
One is I think the Treasury tries to balance. Try to get some of these funds, going to the national government, some programs that are ongoing, and sometimes just counties not being not given a priority in terms of the disbursement of the funds, and that's why we are saying that when the counties are functioning, then the total aggregate as a country we perform, because Kenya is made up of counties. So if the counties are not working, then I can tell you for sure that the country will not be moving, and that's why it's important that counties function. So the bottleneck, sometimes you just find that maybe some people in Treasury don't give it a priority, as counties. But we have had a conversation. I think what is important is to sit. The political goodwill is also important, because we've seen in all the meetings that we have had with the President, for example, the summit, and we also have had informal sessions with the President. He has come out very clearly to say counties must be funded in a timely manner. So that political goodwill at the top, I think, plays a key role in ensuring that things happen and the counties are made to perform as expected.
What is your expected revenue to be shared to the county from the
13 billion, but we are hoping that it will get even to 14 billion as Bungoma County. Remember, you asked me that question of the bill that fell 11 times, record 11 times in the Senate, and it was the hottest that I have ever handled. In fact, the House people threatened to physically fight, because when it comes to sharing revenue, it's a matter of life and death. Remember that the formula that had been brought on the floor of the House had proposed that some counties were going to lose revenue. And we were just getting into an election. So the senators were saying, how do you explain to your people? You will just be playing in the hands of your opponent to say, you presided over, you are a senator. At the time, your county lost money. So the issue was that no county should lose any revenue. And that's that is how we concluded that the national government ended up getting over 50 billion to add to the counties, so that at least every county no county lost money, and that is how even Bungoma had an increment of about 2 billion to its kitty. So we are expecting about 13-14 billion to come to Bungoma County in the next financial year.
What have you received so far?
So far, it comes. It doesn't come all at the same time. It comes in bits. So we are not doing badly. Should be over about 7 or so billion has already come, and that is what we are now using for both recurrent and development.
You have your own collection as a county. What's your target? Your annual target? Revenue collection.
For example, about 3 or so billion, and we are again targeting about 4 billion on revenue collection. All we want to do is to improve, because there's a lot of pilferage, a lot of money being lost. So we have a revenue system. We are emphasizing a revenue system that will see all the money that is due to the county collected and banked safely. So we have minimized the manual collection, because people will collect, pay themselves, just give to the county government what they think should go there. And again, there are temptations, in these hard times. If somebody is collecting revenue and his child is at home, he has not paid fees, he will start by saying, let me take this money, I'll pay fees and refund. Then he ends up not refunding the money, or eventually he ends up just taking the money. So we have tightened, we want to seal all the loopholes, and we also want to review our revenue collection system, so that we seal all the loopholes. For example, if we want the taxes that are paid by, say, the matatus, the border, we want an efficient system where we get all the money. Because, again, what is going to save the counties, from my own experience, is own revenue collection. Because relying on shareable revenue that's coming from the national government, it will delay, it can be unreliable. But if we increase our own revenue collection, and this is something that we even emphasized during the summit, which is something that we even talked about even when there was a speaker in the Senate, that will really help the counties to grow. For example, a county like Nairobi, if they were to intensify their own revenue collection, they should not even be asking for shareable revenue, because Nairobi can collect all the money.
Itself can just collect their own revenue.
I
hope Governor Sakaja is listening to this.
He can collect his own revenue and even lend the national government, lend even the national treasury, because there's a lot of money that is collected. Even here, that's one of the things that I really want to do, because we want to seal the loopholes where we lose revenue. And that's going to be one of my focus, that we have a revenue system that will ensure what we collect is enough to complement what the national government, the national treasury gives us, to be able to give services to the people.
And Governor, this is very important for you, because one, when we came for to seek for the second mandate from the people of Bungoma, they gave you that mandate, and you must be so thankful for that, because it's a big gamble moving from Senate back to the county, because it's a wananchi, they speak, and when they speak, they can speak in different language. But then, what is your development agenda based on your manifesto? And you had your first inaugural speech last year in October. To this far, what have you achieved as a county governor?
You know, in politics, there is no really handing over, depending on how you come in. You know,
it's a transition.
It's a transition. Somebody has lost, he decides to go away. Some carry away all manner of things. So when I came in, you find that I inherited a system or people who are serving, whose loyalty is more with my predecessor. So I have tried to align to get people who are loyal, people who are going to serve based on. So what I've already done in, the first one of the things that we have done is the road network, infrastructure, because advertised and awarded 23 roads. As we speak now, there's a lot of road work going on in the rural, in most of the sub-counties. Then we have also advertised 94 roads based on the wards. As we speak now, the evaluation has been completed. The tender is going to be awarded anytime this week, so that again, we now deal with the rural roads out there. So that is ongoing. Already some of the roads, there's a road that is called Lusaka Road. Yes. It was named after me because, when I came in, it was a footpath. And I put tarmac, it's a bypass in Bungoma town. It comes from Bungoma town, passes the mortuary, then up to Sikata. Yeah. Already now we have put tarmac. It's totally complete. It was ignored because they say that was Lusaka's program. Like I said, in politics, sometimes there's no handing over. Then we're also going to do other roads in town, Bungoma town. We have done, there's a road called from Kibuk in Mount Elgon, Kibuk to Chepkitale. Again, I opened up that road. The last time it had been done was 1973. So when I came in the first time, I opened it, but when I went, again, it was abandoned. That was Lusaka. That one is complete. There is also a water project that's ongoing in a place called, in those sides of Kibuk. Again, it is a Korean project that's going to serve over 100 residents. The problem was they could not access the source, so we have again done a road, 10-kilometer road, which I commissioned. Works are ongoing, should be ready in the next 1 month to be able to open up that place and to be able to enable the Koika, the Korean team that are working on the water. That water is what is going to flow all the way from Mount Elgon through Kabuchai up to Kibabi University. Yeah. So that's going to give water to our people. So as far as the road network is concerned, we have done very well. In agriculture, during my first term, I came up with various programs. I was very visionary in what I did. During my first term, I bought tractors. I bought our weather stations to be able to let our farmers know the weather pattern. I bought soil testing machines. I bought dryers, to take care of the post-harvest challenges, because we lose a lot of those things. And then I also started a subsidy program where we were giving free fertilizer and seeds to the vulnerable groups. So as we speak now, already we have procured a fertilizer, we have procured seed, and I'm going to launch that program next week on Monday. Subsidized. We're giving free to the farmers who are vulnerable. The committees have already vetted the farmers. This is meant to address food security. And this time we have also added a component of insurance. so that all those farmers that we are going to give subsidized fertilizer and seeds are also going to be put on an insurance. And we have worked out a way how to assess if there's crop failure, that the farmer will not get out free of charge. The insurance will be able to pay that particular farmer. We have already worked out. This is a new component that I have added in my second term. In terms of health, of course, having been a civil servant and during the campaigns, I promised the civil servants a good package to keep their morale up. Since I left the last 5 years, we have health workers who have never been promoted, so their morale is really low. We have workers who have been who had been on contract for many years.
And that's a very big issue even for most of the counties.
Yes, I have effected. Last month, I promoted 179 health workers who are on contract to permanent and pensionable. 179. Okay. Over 200 are going to be promoted either this week or next week. There are letters already. We're just awaiting confirmation of funds from finance. We have also advertised to recruit more than 200 health workers, because we have a challenge. We have health facilities that are run by one nurse or from one clinic officer. When they go for lunch, everything closes down, or if they fall sick, then it can operate. So we are again building that capacity of our health facilities. My focus in health is primary health care.
Which is quite
primary health care.
And how are you, based on that, how are you capitalizing that in all the non-sub
we are having what is called public participation, and we're working very closely with the ward the MCS. We want to identify a health facility in all our 45 wards, which will be properly equipped, which will make sure that it functions. And I've been giving an example where I stay. My nearest health facility is called Mahonge. The other day I was not feeling very well, and I thought, now, if I was to be taken to Mahonge, really, do they have facilities that can even check my pressure? Even first aid. The first aid. And I realized that that's a challenge, and we can lose lives just because we have not equipped our primary health facilities.
But that, Governor, that puts you under
going to focus on that, because in all this, it depends on what you want, what's your priority. For example, if I say I'm going to give that as my priority in the next 5 years, that I will be a governor, it's achievable. Because I'll make sure that in every budget that we put, we're going to target either we deal with 10 wards or so, to make sure that at least there is a functional health facility. And I'm also networking. The other day, 2 days ago, I was in Nairobi negotiating with Safaricom. Safaricom have accepted to assist us to build a facility worth about 30 million, 30 million maternity facility for our county. So we are going to identify where it will be. AMREF, I've had a discussion in AMREF in Nairobi. As we speak now, they are already in the county trying to identify, they have already identified areas where they're going to put oxygen plants to supply oxygen in some of our facilities. So that collaboration with with partners and what we are raising, I'm sure that we are going to improve the health of our people. So sometimes, when our people say, our governor is traveling, going to Nairobi. We are not just traveling for fun. We are traveling to, you can't just sit in Mapera here and expect that people are going to look for you to bring, and yet other governors are all over. It's a competition. How do you negotiate? How do you network with the other partners to be able to assist you? In terms of education, that's where we have had also a bit of a challenge. My predecessor started a program. It was, I had a bursary program, scholarship program. We have TVETs and we have ECD.
Is this county owned or governor owned bursary? This county.
Yeah, but the tragedy is that my predecessor focused more on scholarship.
Okay.
And if you look at the functions of the county government as per Schedule 4, our focus should be TVETs and ECDs. That is what is devolved. And therefore, even during my first term, I built ECD classrooms. I was the first one to recruit 2,000 ECD teachers, put them on P&P, improved their scheme of service. They were earning very well. I'm sure the salaries, whatever commission, that they try to interfere with that kind of scheme of service that we came up with. Then the I also focus on technical training institutions, TVETs. But when my predecessor came, he focused more on scholarships. And the tragedy is he increased the numbers from 2,000 to 8,000 because of elections. He wanted to use that to win an election. Now, as I speak now, we owe schools a lot of money. One of the schools, for example, Teremi, we are owing schools an average of 14 million, which we need to pay. Most of the students who are given letters to go to schools with promises that, like promissory notes, promises like we'll pay. Now we have a big problem. We have rationalized, tried to rationalize. Of course, they're inciting parents to say, oh, we were on scholarships and whatever. And this is creating even a dependence syndrome. We're not saying we don't want to support the vulnerable students. For example, for the bursary that I'm emphasizing, bursary, if they go to most of our local schools, the average is 5,000. If you pay 5,000 in the 45 wards, at an average of 5,000, you will capture 36,000 students as compared to scholarship, even if you were to say there were 7,000. The bigger number will be captured through bursary. And then we also must revive our TVETs and ECDs because that's our function. We cannot put a lot of money in a function that is not devolved. That will not be, because the bursaries, you see, we have members of the National Assembly also dispersing bursaries. Bursaries and scholarships. We have institutions like banks also giving scholarships. So one of the things that we have done is to streamline so that a student who is benefiting from one bursary does not benefit from another, because we have students who are benefiting from the banks, who are benefiting from the constituencies, and again who are benefiting from the county assembly. So that we have streamlined, and I want to promise the people of Bungoma that we are going to streamline and refocus on what is devolved. And even if we are talking about scholarship, we want to take care of the really needy and poor. One of the things that I realized that some of the students who are benefiting, the parents who are able. A parent drives a Mercedes, goes to a school. That's not a poor parent. So we have streamlined that. In terms of water, we have also identified over 43 projects, water projects that the tenders have been awarded. Work should be commencing anytime so that our people have access to clean water. They access water, and that water is also clean. So in terms of sports and gender, we've been having challenges of, for example, when we have games or we have something in the welfare things.
Bungoma is a citadel of talent.
Yes, talent. Yeah, now I started a high altitude training center in Chemoge. It's not very far from where we are. That is the only public high altitude training center in the whole republic. Most of them are private. The purpose was, and I want to complete in the next 2 months, the first phase was to tap talent. If you go to Mount Elgon, like the record holder comes from Mount Elgon. So we want to tap into those talents. You go there, we have the state-of-the-art training institute. We want to acquire more land, do the track and all that kind of thing. I have also acquired a 62-seater bus to be able to assist our sportsmen and women when we are going out and many other activities. So I am now on the right track. I have started moving.
Okay. Governor, when you talk about development and all these things, one thing somebody will ask you, the bit of pending bills, when you left the first administration, then you came back, you went to Senate, and then now you're back. I would assume that when you're leaving, you had pending bills, which was carried over by your predecessor, and then now you're back. How are you dealing with the case of pending bills in the county right now?
And that's why when I came in, I set up a task force. 3 task forces. 1 was to look at human resource. 2 was to look at pending bills. 3 was to look at the issue of scholarships. Now, pending bills, and I think there's a regulation, there's a law that has not been enforced, that certain things should not be done 1 year to elections. Because what has happened is that most governors, or those who are exiting governors, will go into a lot of programs. Like if you are hoping to win an election, and a pending bill is where you are spending money that has not been budgeted for. So you go declare roadside declarations. You say, hii barabara itatengenezwa, there's no budget for it. You put a contractor because you want people to vote for you. You start commissioning very many projects, KMTC in Mount Elgon, this one ifanyike, this one let this happen. There is no budgetary provision. So as we speak now, we have over 1 billion pending bills. Yes. So I set up a task force to look at the bills that are eligible, and those that are not eligible. And the results are really shocking. You find.
Perhaps, Governor, do you think that even the legislators, National Assembly or even the Senate, should come up with a law that if you are a governor and you're transitioning, or you are a governor and you're finishing your term, then each and every program that you started should be finished.
Yes.
Before you transit and have all these pending bills. Because remember, many people are still crying because the pending bills, either they have not been paid, the suppliers have not been paid, the procurement departments are, here and there. Do you think it's now high time for the legislators to come with such kind of a law?
Important. There must be a law. I can't remember what it is, but I think it's important that as you wind up, that's what I was saying, that a year to an election, we must curb certain things from happening. For example, you should not have commitments. For example, you're going to commit that this should be done, a year to an election. Certain things should not happen because you are giving it to a successor, because politics is politics. You not win, and I think even that should happen at the national level, where, for example, the president or the government in place should not make commitments that they know are going to be a burden to whoever will come to take over. Even the national government, I'm sure the president now is also grappling with things that were committed very quickly towards the last regime, towards the end of the year. You do things hoping that maybe you'll come back, or even deliberately, so that whoever comes to take over has a problem. Just the way I've mentioned about the bursary. How do you raise numbers from 2,000 to 8,000 without any budget? So now you come in and they want me now to look bad. They're saying, you see, I had put you on a scholarship. The governor who has come in is now removing you people. It's not sustainable. So those kind of things, we must have a law.
What is now your current pending bills as we speak?
Pending?
Yes.
It's about over 1 billion. We're just trying to see. That's what we are grappling with. We're just trying to survive over 1 billion, as stated in the books. But we are now trying to check, because some of the revelations were where a road, they stated that they did a road, 10-kilometer road. When our people went to check, it was 5 kilometers. Where they were saying they were putting maraming, it was just grading. No maram was put there. You go and ask. And I want to thank the people, because the people have become so alert that when you go there, they tell you this road was done last in 2013. It was done in 2015. Hapo walikuja tu wakapita na grade, hakuna maram iliwekwa. So wananchi have become inspectors themselves. They tell us the truth. So we are now trying to rationalize, and of course I want to assure the suppliers, the contractors, that those who worked will be paid. But where we find that there was cheating, I can tell you I will not pay what was not done, because Wananchi will also tell us there must be value for money of our people, but we can't just have and now people are trying to make quick money to go for campaigns, and that's why that law will be very important.
Okay. The question is, you are doing your second term and the last one. What is one thing that the people of Bungoma will remember you with? This now your legacy term.
Yes. One, like I've told you, I want to focus on health, because health is what really matters. If people are unhealthy, you can forget about agriculture, you can forget about the roads and all that. So I want to focus on health, primary health care, like I told you. Like I want them to remember me for putting up infrastructure in most of the places, most of the rural areas, that people can be able to access health and access drugs and all those kind of things. Number two, also want to work on infrastructure, because infrastructure is again very important. You go to Mount Elgon, is the food basket of this county. A lot of our food come from there, but the road network is completely bad. So we want to identify key roads that we will work on, and where we can put them, grade them well, or even put tarmac, that will be okay. And even the lower side, the roads that we are identifying that we want to improve on. For example, there's a road I started, Misihu Brigadier Road. That's the Tongareni constituency. For those who know the geography of this place, it's the only constituency without a tarmac road. So if that road is completed again, it will really open up. There's a road called Matisi Bokoli Road. That's a road that God willing, we should also be able to put tarmac and many other roads within the county. I've told you about sports, the high altitude training center. I also want to complete it because that will also be will be promoting the talents of our youth. Those are the things that I really want to be remembered for, and other activities that focus especially say on the youth, the women, and now also our men. So that there are certain things that I'll be doing that I hope, what we are calling the legacy. This is my legacy regime, and the things that I really want to be remembered for. So health, agriculture, like I've said, infrastructure, and then even water, making sure that every people have access to water. Yeah.
What are some of the bottlenecks you're facing in your administration? Because at the end of the day, you must be having some people, as much as you're doing your job, but there's certain people who are just right behind you trying to pull you down. What are some of these bottlenecks?
The challenge I inherited a civil service whose loyalty was to my predecessor. So I'm having those challenges. You're having a account secretary who is supposed to be a secretary to the cabinet, but his loyalty is to your predecessor who wants to come back. So immediately you finish your cabinet, all that you have discussed, and the cabinet is supposed to be confidential, all you have discussed is taken to... That is sabotage. It is sabotage. You have, for example, chief officers who hold meetings, and we have able to hold meetings every day, every week with whoever my predecessor. So those are some of the challenges that you're having, and I want to propose this that, like it is with the CECs, whose term is tied to the governor. I think we must also have a rule where chief officers, the county secretary, and chief officers' tenure must also be tied to the governor's tenure.
It is now, that's now yours now.
Yes, we are going to propose that because, let me tell you, very many governors are suffering as we speak because they inherited a civil service that belonged to their predecessors. So some governors went and chased them away right away, and then they have had issues in court. They have contracts that some are going up to 2026, 2027. So you are forced to work with people who don't believe in you. So you don't know whether they are sabotaging you or not. So that must really be, and this is something that is being canvassed, even at the Council of Governors, that that tenure must be tied to so that when you go, and like in the US, it's very clear. When the president goes, he goes with his team. With the entire team. Just know that when he goes, you go with him. When he's there, you're there. Because people now pretend to be very loyal, to be working with you, but in truth, they are not serving your interest. They're serving the interest of whoever's gone. So those are some of the challenges that are there. Some of the projects another challenge is, there may be projects that may not have been my priority. In my view, but again, you can't abandon them because taxpayers' money has been put in those projects. So I'm forced to complete those projects because I cannot leave them as white elephants. Me, I don't have that spirit of saying, oh, those ones belonged to my predecessor, therefore I will not complete them. So I'll be able to complete them, but that may not have been my priority. But I just have to complete because money has been put in those projects.
What is your industrialization agenda? Because at the end of the day, you have to look at something. Certain counties will have to look for one particular product, for example, and then they industrialize it. What is your plan on that?
One thing that I'm happy to announce, in fact, we're leaving for Nairobi today. Tomorrow, we are going to Kiridi. During our meeting, a very good project that came up with the industrial park. And the national government is giving every county 100 million. And we are going to top up, I think it's about 125. So we are going to top up to make sure that we come up with industrial parks. So all of us are going to Kiridi to see a model of what an industrial park looks like, because very many people have made pronouncements on industrial parks. My predecessor even took people to Uganda to go and benchmark on an industrial park. Some of them are sitting here. So it ended up just being a tour of Uganda. Nothing came out. So we really want to see a model, a functional industrial park, so that we now, as a country or counties, we are reading from the same page. But for me also, I would want to emphasize value addition, because with the last mile, with the power going to the villages, I want to emphasize cottage industries. The cottage industries are going to support our youth. They're going to support most of our people. So that instead of, for example, just selling raw tomatoes, you can make tomato sauce. That's value addition. If we can have that in Kimilili, Tongareni, Mount Elgon, that will create employment, and it will also add value to the products that we are having. So that at the end of the day, and that is my dream, that even if I exit as a governor, but many years to come, that no product should leave Bungoma unprocessed. We need to add value. So instead of selling, like I've said, raw potatoes, we want to see tomato sauce, tomato paste written made in Chwele, like the slaughterhouse, the chicken slaughterhouse that I brought when I was a permanent secretary, and improved it when I was a governor. Of course, it's not complete. It's not totally complete, but it's now functional, and I want to complete it by the next year. It will be fully operational. We are now having packed chicken from Chwele. I hope you know where Chwele is. Chwele. Yeah, so you can go. You can go and see. We are packaging it. Slaughtering chicken, feathering, then chopping it into the different parts and packaging it, and then you can now go to the supermarket and get chicken made from Chwele in Bungoma. Those are the kind of things that we want to talk about. Even as now we go to Nairobi to talk about the industrial park. Those are the kind of things that we will be looking at. We look at what is viable for Bungoma, what is good for us, because what is good for Bungoma may not be good for Vihiga. Yeah. So this we are going to have a conversation, what we call public participation, identify where the industrial park should be, not themselves decide or say exactly what we want.
Okay. Yeah. You sit in the Lake Region Economic Bloc.
Actually, the vice chair.
You're the vice chair.
Yes.
What are some of the gains that you've made as a bloc? Because the common man should want to see the bloc, the counties forming the bloc. They want to see some kind of visible changes and improvements and even achievements as a county. What is your mandate in the bloc?
In the bloc of infrastructure. Unfortunately, my predecessor was the chair, but he never attended any of those meetings. Or if he attended, he was a silent listener to every conversation. But he never made a real impact in it. But I think we're having a conversation with some partners, especially India. They want to come up with some infrastructure. We have the matters of health. I know Kisi is running away with health. We are running away with the Kisumu is trying to look at the a railway system, the intercity kind of railway. We are, and as a chair, we're also looking at how we can improve the road network so that we can benefit as a region. How can we improve our road network? So I think I am just okay. We started it when I was during my first term. I went for the 5-year break. I have come back. So actually, I've only attended say 2 meetings, but I want to promise that I will want to maximize on the partners that we'll get so that we benefit as a county. Like I've told you, being in charge of infrastructure, we'll be looking at how to improve our road network as a county. So we're having that conversation, and we really want to see how we can benefit as a region, not just individual counties.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Governor, as we come to a close, I want to ask you this question. At the end of the day, because the people of Bungoma is looking at you, this is your redemption and legacy period. One thing that you're going to do this year, let's bring it back, not 5 years, this year.
One thing that I'm going to do.
Yes, this year you have your executive, your office is ready. You are already on the track this year.
This year, one, like I've told you, I want to focus also on infrastructure. Good. I'm going to tarmac some roads. At least this year already, I've done the town roads because they were completely dilapidated. Like I've told you, some roads had not been completed. So I'm going to work out on those. I've told you I want to go this year. Yes. I want to operationalize the high altitude training center in Mount Elgon, the first phase. This year also, I want to complete the health facilities that were being sponsored by the World Bank. That is in Bumula, in Bungoma, and in Naitiri. like I've told you, with partnering with Safaricom, we're also going to put up a new health facility. We are yet to identify the location, but we are going to put up a 30 million health facility, maternity facility to support our people. So those are the kind of things that I really want to focus on. I don't want to bite more than I can chew. I don't want to promise things. Infrastructure, healthcare,
and education.
Education and sports. And the sports, yeah.
And sports. All right. 4. All right. Governor, as we come to an end, you know, you're blessed. You're blessed. As I started, you're a blessed country. I think this is the country with so many gods. So many gods around. How you survive with so many gods around you? You must be a blessed governor.
First of all, I want to condemn.
You have so many gods around.
We only have one God, and as a county, we have been very lucky to produce very senior religious people in this country. We produced Cardinal Otunga, and during my first tenure, I was putting up a cultural center in a place called where Cardinal Otunga was born. And you know, my vision was people will be coming from all over, because Cardinal Otunga, remember, is on his way to sainthood. So people even coming from Rome to want to see where was this saint born. So we produced Cardinal Otunga. We have also produced an Archbishop Wabukala in the Anglican Church, which is my church. He served as the ESCC as a chair. As we speak now, the Archbishop of the Catholics, Anyolo, comes from Tongaren here. So we have produced 3 very senior religious people. Now, these other fellows who are masquerading as gods, we want to condemn them. You cannot, you cannot. In fact, it's blasphemy. You cannot come up and just because you are wearing a long beard and start saying you are a god from something. I think it is totally wrong. We want to condemn them, and I want them to come back to go to the real God and pray and ask for forgiveness, because it is wrong to just come up and say something. It's even we had somebody called Wanyonyi. He was called Wanyonyi, Jehovah Wanyonyi. So Jesus of Tongaren. Yeah, Jesus of Tongaren. Now, when they died, because God is not supposed to die, he disappeared. They were struggling with where to take the body, because he was supposed to have just disappeared. So I think we must really respect God, and we want to bring back this county to the real God. These are the gods that are masquerading. I'll invite them and convince them to confess and seek real redemption from God, because those things are not helping us.
Governor, that is your camera. Governor, that is your camera. Talk to your people. They've given you a second term in 30 seconds, if you can. I think it's just put.
First, I really want to thank the people of Bungoma, and I'll forever be grateful to them for, first of all, electing me as their first governor between 2013 and 2017. And when I got a break, I must also thank God that I did not just go home, but I went to serve in even a higher capacity as the Speaker of the Senate. And then when I came back to seek for their mandate, they have given me a second chance. I want to assure them that I will not let them down. I will do all that is humanly possible to improve their lives through the sectors that I've mentioned: agriculture, health, water, education, sports and gender, all round. I will do what is humanly possible, so that when the history of Bungoma County is written, or when those will come in posterity, will remember that there was a governor in the name of Lusaka who did ABCD for our people. I want to be remembered for the good things that I have done. But just like in the Bible, it's not how long you are around, but what actions you make that will create an impact. If I asked you today, as my anchor, that who is the longest man in the Bible, who lived many years, you don't even remember.
Methuselah.
Yeah, you can see you have read the Bible. It was Methuselah who lived for more than 900 years, but very many people don't remember him. Jesus Christ lived for 33 years. People remember him to date.
Exactly.
People remember the deeds that he did, what he did. So it's not how long you will be there, but the impact that you leave to the people. And this is what I'm telling the people of Bungoma as I face them now, that I'm not going to let you down. I'm going to perform. The naysayers, the Thomases, let them give us an opportunity to serve, because they will always be there, but we are not going to be distracted by those who don't want us to perform.
Governor, thank you so much. Thank you so much. We've been speaking to Governor Kenneth Lusaka of Bungoma County 039. We've been speaking matters, education, healthcare, infrastructure, and so much more. You've heard it from him. Now the responsibility is all on him to deliver as per his manifesto and agenda and what is promised to the people of Bungoma. He's a national leader, and everybody is also looking at him because once
Victor Olo, quite a cogent discussion there live from Bungoma County with the county governor there, Honorable Ken Lusaka. Back in studio, we want to train our focus looking at the role of engineering in nation building, just tracking where this particular practice has come from, looking at the achievements, the impacts, the significance of engineering in our country, and also the challenges, the loopholes that still exist and what various stakeholders are doing to mitigate that. Not forgetting the World Engineering Day coming up on the 4th of March and what this day pertains to this particular practice. That is what you're set to converse in the next 50 minutes. I am holding court with Engineer Eric Ohangam, who is the President, Institution of Engineers of Kenya, IEK. That is to my far right next to him is Honorable Engineer Kiragu Shege, the Member of Parliament, Limuru constituency, and also right next to me is Engineer Erastus Mongera, Chairman, Engineers Board of Kenya, EBK. Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Good to have you.
And thank you so much for your time. I just want to latch on this particular conversation, starting with you, Engineer Eric. We are talking about the role of engineering in national development. I was just telling you earlier how this is one of those very key and important sectors in our country. From your practice, why is it so?
Thank you so much, Doreen, and I think I'm happy to be here today. And I recognize the fact that for any country to develop, and I normally draw my attention to countries in the Asian tigers, like the Singapore, after seceding from Malaysia. They developed because of the role of an engineer. And that's what we are seeing even as a country, that for us to achieve our Vision 2030 of becoming a middle-income economy, this is going to be achieved by the engineers in this country. We have the power, we have the competency, we have the skills to achieve exactly that. And I know with that, we are in for good things to come. Thank you.
Looking at achieving a vision of 2030 of being a middle-income economy as a result of engineering, we'll momentarily look at that in a short while. Let's just look at the programs therein into this practice as far as achieving that is concerned. But then, Honorable Kiragu, Honorable Engineer Kiragu, I shall call you by all titles. Just talk to me about the progress that this particular sector has had over time, from when we only had the Royal College, which is now University of Nairobi, as the only school training engineers. Right now, it is across board. Where have we come from as a country?
Okay, thank you, Doreen. I think even before we get there,
yes,
for those of us who believe in God having created the world and having had a command for people to be fruitful and multiply and fill the world. We see the role of engineer as one that addresses the needs of the people. In this country, at the time of independence, we know our preparation was not that much. It has grown, and in fact, even like the teaching of engineering started just very close here, the Royal Technical. But as of today, we can count over 10 or so universities which offer university engineering courses, and also other called technical colleges, that like the polytechnics and others who have also been very key to development of engineering. But when we look at the country, you don't need to go far. This studio, you see the things that has changed from the cameras, digital cameras, to remote microphones. In this country, at the time of independence, we had very few, like the dams, for example, Sasumwas, now on the Roiro. But now, Dakaine, you look at the way we were transporting, for example, like the petroleum. We installed a pipeline from Nairobi, Mombasa to Nairobi. You look at the trains then, they were steam driven. they moved to diesel electric locomotives. We now have SGR. When you look in every sector in this country, including manufacturing, you find that there has been a lot of inputs in engineering for us to achieve where we are. Look at the power generation.
Yeah.
We started with the hydro, we went to thermal, then we have now gone to geothermal, we are in wind and solar. So as a country, we have achieved a lot. There are a lot of challenges, but as a nation, I can say that this country, and I say that without any fear, it has been a leader in the region in terms of engineering practice. It has provided support to the region. I know one time, in fact, the regions, including Zambia, used to come and train their railway staff in the railway training school. So as I look back, even myself, I remember the days when we were looking for work, and even at the training in the university here, you find that in fact the equipment that we were using were, for example, the slide rules, that's what we were used to in calculation. You look at what is there today, the application of computers. But above all, if you go to the manufacturing and you see the application of computer design and manufacturing, you'll find that this country has moved. Yes, we have challenges. We are part of the international community. Challenges are there, but as a country, we have made a lot of progress.
I hear you. You know, you just talk about training, and there's a part that I want you to elucidate a bit further as we momentarily move with this conversation. Nonetheless, talking about education engineer Erastus, what is being done to ensure that indeed the quality of engineers being churned out can be able to meet up to the industry's demands?
Thank you very much, Doreen, for having us today. As my colleagues have said, engineering is a very precise science, and things must be put in place to fit, and what is learned must be applied practically. For that reason, there is a collaboration between the academia, the universities who are teaching courses, and the industry. And in between there is a regulator who is Engineers Board of Kenya, where our main role is to ensure that standards are made and maintained, and that the programs taught in universities, the engineering programs taught in universities, are relevant to the industry. And therefore, there is need for those programs to be looked at, evaluated, and then accepted by the regulator. And the way this is done is to involve both the academia and the industry. They come together, they go to a university, they make sure that that course, it has enough competencies who are teaching, the faculty are have the right qualifications. Also, there are facilities, like if it is a telecommunications program, like lending to people working in a studio like this. They have studios like this where they can demonstrate and do all that. If it is a mechanical engineering, they have workshops and laboratories where materials can be tested and all that. And then again, we'll make sure that those students are exposed to the industry in their training by organizing attachments, so that whatever they are learning in theory can be seen in practice. And by the time they graduate after 5 years, then they are competent to be licensed as graduate engineers. The story doesn't end there, because they are also required again to do another 3 years of practical training, or what we call graduate engineers internship program, where they are now attached to professional and consulting engineers who are working in the industry, and they are trained practically, and then they can be licensed to be professional engineers. Yeah.
So what you're saying is basically there's a consolidated effort as far as trainings, education is concerned to churn out qualified engineers.
Yes.
Still sticking on that note of training, Engineer Ohanga, you did touch on that aspect of wanting to ensure that we realize the Vision 2030 and being a middle income country. So then what programs are this, as far as this practice is concerned, to ensure that we do achieve this? Because now we're just 7 years to this 2030 that we've talked about over time.
Thank you so much. In terms of the numbers that you're talking about, and I think we have a very strategic plan to push the numbers of professional engineers to 10,000 in the next 4 years. And at IEK, we have a very robust mentorship program that actually ranges from very low level, from actually primary school. You're talking about sustainability, and when you talk about 50 years to come, how is our outlook going to be? And therefore, we need to encourage our young people right from primary school to start thinking about STEM subjects. And therefore, that mentorship goes low into those particular cadre. And then we move to high school again to be able to mentor the young people at that particular level, so that then they start to focus to undertake engineering courses when they choose whichever university they want to go to. Again, we move to the universities and continue with our mentorship program until they graduate and come out here. And of course, once they graduate, they undergo the mandatory graduate internship program. And also as IK, we continue to mentor them through disciplines that have already been established. We have the 4 conventional disciplines, that's of electrical, mechanical, civil, agricultural engineering. So we capture them from the graduation, and then we get them into those academies. We start to work with these particular engineers so that we can mentor them into becoming professional engineers, so that these numbers can then grow to the numbers that we are talking about, so that
The 10,000?
the 10,000
Okay.
we are looking forward to.
I hear you.
Yes.
You're talking about technical subjects, STEM subjects. Currently, where we are as a country, we are even having that conversation of TVETs and STEM and technical. But then, at some point, we sort of like even converted the technical schools to universities. Case in point, Mombasa Polytechnic, just across down here in the city center, what was called the Kenya Polytechnic, to now Technical University of Kenya. So then how do you begin reshaping, redirecting towards what exactly all of you are talking about in this set?
I think I'm one person who was really opposed to converting like Kenya Polytechnic and Mombasa Polytechnic into universities, because my experience in the field was that in fact not many engineers can survive in the field and their practice without support of technicians, and these very important institutions were the major suppliers of qualified technicians, to support the practice. And I used to work for railways, and I knew that if you wanted somebody who was a hands-on, somebody who can leave the institution and get to work, whether it's a boiler or inspector or a machinist or something, you actually relied on the 2 polytechnics. However, now that certain things happened, you have seen the government, and particularly this current administration, really focusing on the creation of the TVET in every constituency, is because we know that for us to adequately provide for the expected amount of development that is projected, we need to grow our technicians and the artisans. And I can tell you some of the issues that you are finding out there, like in the building collapsing, is because you have one engineer for a certain area and a certain project, but the people who are dedicated to doing the actual building, actual supervision, are these people who actually have to follow what the engineer has designed. And you find that somehow these people have not been properly trained, they have not been properly certified to do certain things. So I think it is a good thing for us to redirect ourselves, mainly to make sure that at whatever level of engineering, whether it's a welder, that he can be qualified and certified to do certain things, so that the jobs that maybe even Kenya was not ready to do, like for example, repair of a ship in Mombasa, where you require underwater engineering, that we can have a certain college that is specializes in that kind of a service, so that even ourselves we can tap into other services, or for example, KQ. I'm sorry to say, you'll find right now that some of the what you call NDT services, the checking of cracks in the wings or landing gears and all that, that now they have to do it in Amsterdam. I know that in fact this is a service they used to do. Maybe the technicians have retired or they are no longer there, but we should be able to train some of these technicians to support this kind of work so that we enlarge this cake. And Kenya becomes a service center for many of the other operations. And for us, I know I am sitting between the two important people in this country. And I think with the government and the Ministry of Education and the players in industry, this is achievable, and we can generate people who can support the vision, as you say.
I hear you. You want to,
Yes, just want to, what Mheshimiwa said, the role of an engineer basically is to design structures and then supervise and make sure that they are constructed or built according to the design. The universally accepted ratio of the professional, the technician, and the craftsman is 1 to 5 to 25. So in a construction site, an engineer should be able to supervise 5 technicians. And then those 5 technicians will each supervise 5 artisans at different levels. You find in Kenya when we stopped producing technicians and craftsmen, because technicians were trained in polytechnics and the craftsmen were trained in vocational centers, carpenters, plumbers, and so on. You find now the rate of attrition has become very high, and these people are very rare in the industry, the technicians. In fact, the most well-paid people today are technicians, like plumbers, because they are not available, as opposed to engineers. So that is why the government is focused to say it has reversed this overproduction of engineers and produce technicians and artisans so that they can fill that missing gap.
So from where you sit, you think there's been training has been ongoing, and it's good, as you all did say, but there's been a bit of a loophole as far as technician is concerned. So then, do you think that is part of what has brought this big challenge of the fact that, especially when you look at any time we have mega projects as a country, for instance, when you had the expressway being put in place, right now we're talking about the Ronnie Mau Summit Road, not forgetting what this government is mulling over, the 200,000 affordable housing units every year. In fact, we've seen the president almost everywhere he goes to, he does launch that. And the biggest issue as far as this project is concerned is that our very own, we give them menial jobs, and we have tendencies to import human resource, almost clearly everything. That bit of not having enough personnel in that regard, is that what has brought us to this particular point?
Thank you so much, Doreen. And I think I want to weigh in from the point of professionalism. And in these particular projects, from the Institution of Engineers of Kenya, we believe we have the people, we have the skills that are capable to perform these particular duties. And when you talk about the affordable housing, actually we are following up with the National Housing Corporation, so that now we know where is the role of an engineer in these 250,000 houses that we want to bring on board every single year? Because we know from design, from construction, and also maintaining of this particular infrastructure will require the services of engineer. So we have the database, and we want to work together with the government agencies so that we can play a critical role in provision of these services that are required so that the country can develop as it were.
But you're saying trained personnel, skilled personnel are there.
Yes.
We should focus on our own more, a little bit more.
Sure.
In fact, Doreen, when it comes to like the affordable houses, I think the president is very clear on what he wants to achieve. He wants to engage as many as possible local people, giving them an opportunity. For example, if you have 1,000 units, the question is how many windows are there going to be there? How many doors? How many sinks? How many, And if you...
Is this regularized, or is just, as the president says, word of mouth?
No, he is really, and it's something that has been thought through. If you now have tenders, for example, where you say, I need people in Juakali to supply, say, 100. It is possible for our people to be involved. But if you have a tender for 50,000 of windows and whatever, and then you start saying that somebody must show track record of has supplied similar number, you'll find that our local people will not have a chance.
They don't have
and that has been a problem. Even when you come to road construction, you want to do a road from Mombasa to Nairobi, and then you start saying that you must have a turnover of I don't know how many billions, and then you say one must have demonstrated having constructed a road of 500 kilometers. So what you are actually doing is to say no local person should try. But should you put this in segment and say for every 5 kilometers you're looking for a contractor, you'll find our people having an opportunity. I'm saying that because of many other tendering systems that we have in this country, which are skilled to make sure that our people do not get involved. So I think as we go forward, one of the big challenges we have as engineers, because we are also involved in a tendering system, is to tender or put a tender policy and scheme to ensure that we provide local people an opportunity.
I hear you.
Yeah? But if you tender in a way that actually you make sure that they do not qualify, then we kill ourselves.
Well said. Well said. And I want us to move to the World Engineering Day. But before that, you sit in the legislative arm of government, Mheshimiwa.
Yes.
So then, just listening to what you're saying, do you think we need to have like regulations for this? More like laws put in place? Because let me tell you, it's good to say it, but the implementation process of this is always the key challenge. Why I ask this is also because when the CS Road and Transport was being vetted, it's one of the key issues that came to the fore. We train our own. Engineer Ohanga just said, from a skill-based train perspective, he's very confident. It's one thing to say it, it's a different story when it comes to implementation.
I can tell you for sure, because I also practice engineering.
Yes.
And I can tell you, sometimes to do things in this country is so difficult because you get unfair competition from outside people. People who sometimes we do not know, but they come here with all shades of flowers and experiences to a point where sometimes we give them work and deny ourselves. But I think as a government, as our people, the most important thing is to know that we have trained like the engineers. We have invested in them. So we must engage them. And that's not only for engineers, but also for doctors, for all sorts of people that we train. And if you look at our immigration, you will see that nobody can come to work here unless there's somebody to understand that person. In fact, it's a requirement that if somebody comes, you must indicate who is understanding that person. But you find that even our immigration does not work. They don't follow. So that the next time when you're asking for a similar person, they should be asking, what about the person who was trained by the other one? So you find there is a loophole where it is exploited by the people out there. The other thing is that there are people And you cannot solve this thing by registering everything.
Yeah. Having laws
in fact, we must know that we must fight for this country.
But we're a law-abiding country. Why won't we have laws in place in that regard?
The laws are there. Let me tell you, we have more than...
I want us to make progress in this conversation, because when you stick on that part, we'd barely cover the World Engineering Day. But I hear what you're saying. When you look at that in that regard, there's really quite a lot that needs to be done, especially as it pertains to just ensuring our very own are equally prioritized when it comes to this project. I mean, when you look at 200,000 affordable housing units in a year, it's very important to have our very own included in some of these projects.
But I can tell you, in this program, I think our local people will have an opportunity.
Okay, well said.
Yeah, let me also add there and say, engineers, technicians, and craftsmen in this country are very well trained.
Okay.
Professionally trained. And there is a mechanism of engaging an engineer. For example, no engineer should be employed unless he or she has been licensed by the board. And no, even foreign ones, they are supposed to get what we call temporary license. But you see, as my colleague has said, some of them find their way through immigration and they start working without following that procedure. So if all the arms of government can cooperate in this, then there will be enough jobs for us, engineers locally here, and for those foreigners out there.
Well,
so, but there is no doubt that the engineers are very professional and very highly qualified.
Well said. Thank you for that. World Engineering Day coming up on the 4th of March. Engineer Ohanga, why is this important? It's actually an annual event?
Yes, it is, which was proclaimed in 2019 on the 40th General Assembly by UNESCO, and is supposed to be celebrated every 4th March of every year. And this is basically to look at the role of engineering and the engineer services and what the engineers have been able to do for the betterment of humanity. So we are seriously looking forward to this celebration. Worldwide, it will be held in Madrid, but every single professional body in each country that is a member of that particular World Federation of Engineering Organization will be doing their own celebration. So we are looking forward to do this. IK together with EBK will be hosting this World Engineering Day at Nairobi University, and we have a number of activities that have been planned for this particular day. Thank you.
So that's since 2019?
2019.
So this is 4 years later?
Sure.
What has been the progress?
The progress has been good. The main purpose of this day is to create awareness on the importance of engineering, on the role of engineers, and to encourage young people, especially students, to be aware of what they expect when they enroll for engineering programs. We started, the first celebrations was held in 2020 at the University of Nairobi. We had a procession just to create awareness and speeches that were given. 2021 and 2022, because of COVID, there was a slowdown. We mainly met virtually, mainly, and there were a few people sitting somewhere for physical meeting. But this year again, we'll be meeting physically in the University of Nairobi, just to create this awareness and to listen to what different players in engineering are saying, so that we can see, we can pick those issues and see how to improve on what is on what is happening. Let me maybe say also, IK, or Institution of Engineers of Kenya, is I'm board member of Federation of African Engineering Organization, and also I'm board member of World Federation of Engineering Organizations, and whose auspices this World Engineering Day is held. And the idea is to bring engineers together, let them think together that day, mainly create awareness of what is engineering, what engineers are there for, and remind the community that engineers are there for you. What the president said about the 10,000 is the same year that UNESCO declared this day as World Engineering Day. They also commissioned the results of a study which they had carried out, and they came with a recommendation in a middle-income country like Kenya, we should have a ratio of 1 engineer to serving 5,000 people. And that means in a population like ours of 50 million, then we should be talking of 10,000 professional engineers, not any engineer, because a graduate engineer is a professional engineer in making. After 3 years, he or she should be able to set a professional examination and become a professional engineer. And one of the major activities is to create awareness, encouraging graduate engineers also to take their professional examination and become professional engineers. And just let the Kenyans and the rest of the world know the engineers are there. They are raw engineers go to greenfield and build an environment which is settled by other people. Like you are talking of the affordable housing. Those houses are being built in empty spaces, and then Kenyans will go there and live. It is engineers who venture first and others come later.
I hear you. Well said. Mheshimiwa, when you look at these days being commemorated, being marked, also just looking at what IEK does, EBK does, quite a number of activities here and there, from where you sit, do you think that this will in one way or the other make us, even just as a nation, appreciate the practice that is engineering? Look at this profession as a serious profession that it needs to be looked at with high regard that it deserves.
I do, Doreen, and my prayer is that in fact, you know, we have two registrations, one for the engineers and another one for the technologists. And my prayer is that at one time we can harmonize these two bodies so that they are one in a way that they can work for the same profession. They help each other and they recognize each other and the role that the technologist and the engineer is playing. But above all, I hope that this kind of a day will bring up some of the challenges that we have as a nation. This country is very good sometimes in doing new works, but we are very poor in maintaining. Whether you go to the medical field, whether you go to the roads, you go to our plants, the sugar factories or whatever, we are very poor. And if we can address the issue of maintenance and train people who are competent to maintain our plant and equipment, and the rest of the infrastructure, including the dams. You remember like the accident we had with the dam. It will help us.
Tragedy?
You remember there's a tragedy in Nakuru, and we have had many. You remember the Gaidavia Railway accident, the pipeline, Morongo fire, the pipeline. There are certain things we can do better. But the good thing is if we are able to maintain our infrastructure, then the cost of doing new works will always, be reduced. For example, the roads, we are the people who see a pothole develop into a crater, and then we have to do the whole road. So my prayer for this event is that we discuss some of the challenges that we have in the country. We appreciate that we have enough people who are competent to deal with various roles that we need to do, but also help this country to know that there is much more we can do and provide the rest of the region, particularly from a service point of view.
Thank you. I hear you. Now, looking at what Mheshimiwa is saying, that we look into the challenges of this sector, just what Engineer Rastas has said, creation of awareness as a key main agenda for this day. In addition to this, what more?
Yes, there will be a lot of exhibition which are innovative in nature. In fact, we are looking forward to women showcase what they have done over the last few years, and therefore there will be an exhibition that will be exhibited by the women and also the young people. And I want to say that Kenya is also privileged to have made it to the finals for the World Federation of engineering organization in terms of the Hackathon Awards. So on that particular day, we are looking forward to the announcement, and we hope that the Kenyan finalists, there are 6 of them, and Kenya is one of them, will be announced as the winner. Last year, we had, on 2021, we had an opportunity to become the first runners-up, and we are looking forward to having this as the winner in this particular year. In other branches, we have 8 branches across the country. They have planned various activities on that particular day, which will be beamed live, just to show what they have to offer in terms of contribution towards the reduction of climate change, to our environment, and other activities in the various parts of this country, like Mombasa, Eldoret, and Nakuru, and Kisumu. In this case, it will be in Kakamega. So we shall be having several other activities in this particular regard.
Okay, so quite a lot happening on that particular day.
Sure.
And I was just looking at this question from one at Engineer Ndolo, not on the World Engineering Day, but still on this subject matter. And the question is, looking at the National Construction Authority of Kenya, that is NCA, Engineers Board, saying that both of these institutions, they have distinct function. And his question is, at what time does NCA allow Engineers Board to enter and inspect construction sites? Did they investigate the previous cases of collapsed building? Has anyone been charged with this? At what point does NCA and Engineers Board come in conjunction as far as these numerous cases of collapse of buildings that we've witnessed, reported, covered? If I get you, Mheshimiwa.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Doreen. Engineers Board of Kenya regulates engineers.
Okay.
National Construction Authority regulates contractors.
Okay.
And both are mandated by acts of parliament, and we don't need permission of NCA to enter and inspect a building, because Engineers Act 2011 empowers us to do that. And what happens is, because the contractors work under supervision of engineers, where there are irregularities picked by NCA, then they normally report those cases to us. We carry out independent investigations, and where found culpable, we discipline the engineers. We have so far disciplined 2 engineers, and at the moment we have about...
Is this in relation to what we witnessed late last year, or what?
Yes, those collapses you have seen and so on. We have disciplined 2 engineers, and we have about that being investigated in this matter. So really there is no conflict, there is no permission required from each other, because we complement one another. To make it easier also to work, we have organized ourselves, the 3 regulatory arms of building industry. That is ourselves, NCA, and the Board of Registration of Architects and Quantity Surveyors. We have a forum where we meet every quarter and share our experiences, our findings, and see how we can move forward. We have gone ahead and developed a memorandum of understanding, which was approved by the NG and is put in place. And this memorandum of understanding enables us to work together. If there is a site visit, for example, instead of one going alone and the other one going and so on, we go as a team and we make report. Or if MBK goes to a site before NCA and the Borax do, then we make a report and share it among ourselves.
So there's no conflicts in terms of rules?
No, there is no conflict. We are working very well together, and we support one another, because the whole idea is to have an organized built environment. We have structures that stand or test of times, and we eliminate these collapses.
Okay, well said. Mheshimiwa, you are the Member of Parliament, Limuru constituency.
Yes.
One of the 12 constituencies in Kiambu County.
Yes.
A county where we have witnessed quite a number of these collapses. Not to say that across the country this doesn't happen, but in just last year alone, in a span of 1.5 months, 2 buildings had gone down. What is happening in Kiambu?
Doreen, this is a very important issue. Of course, it touches on the issue of design, construction process, and sometimes there are also other outside factors. In the same period that the buildings were collapsing in Kiambu, for example, there were over 10 other tremors in Limuru, which left buildings cracked. But you see, when a building collapses, to people, we have now this already stereotyped kind of reasoning that, it is the contractor is don't know what. So we are very quick to come to conclusions. I have requested, in fact, relevant ministry for somebody to report to me and to the other people in Limuru what was the magnitude of these tremors, what effect they have, because Rift Valley and particular region of Naivasha and this Nairobi area, and particularly Limuru, is very close to areas that are considered to be unstable. So I would want us to discuss this issue much more, give the engineers and the relevant experts to deal with specific cases. Because I would like to know if the buildings were cracking in Limuru, and within that particular window, buildings collapsed, but all of a sudden they stopped. So the question, what actually happened? Because if it is a problem, I don't think this is something that you can switch on and off. So to me, and my good friend here, Engineer Mugera has said, I think it's important that we, as a country, we deal with this issue of rogue consultants, rogue contractors, so that even the counties themselves, they should also be honest enough to let people know whether they even have capacity to even supervise, to approve certain buildings. Because as I know, and I have worked in this area of building inspection, particularly where we apply the nuclear technology, electromagnetic thing, to check the structural integrity of buildings. I think the country has the technology, there are enough engineers, but we need to be honest, particularly at the county level, to establish whether they have the capacity to deal with these issues. If they don't have, it is good, like the institutions, to be informed that in fact we don't have enough structural engineers. We don't have, so that this issue is not hidden under a certain shade of people not doing their work properly. Maybe the people to supervise are not enough. Or there are other issues which, for example, like don't know geotechnical surveys that are done before you do a building, whether we have really done enough work other than just construction, because there could be other things which will affect the building.
I hear you. And you just did talk about earthquakes, and sometimes there's some causes of nature that we may not have control over. But just borrowing from what you're saying, do you think also the counties might take the flak on this? Because you realize, that especially when it comes to approval of these buildings, they happen within the county level.
Yes.
So is someone, and I can see also Engineer Hanga is quite agreeing, so is someone somehow missing their role as far as this is concerned, so then we'll have these perennial cases of building collapsing nonetheless?
If you asked me, we would like to really look into the national construction, the capacity within the county, and see where there are gaps, so that people can discuss and see how they can help. When this accident happen, we as a country lose the human or the material losses that we incur. So it's a national problem. But I think it's not something that we can leave to various areas without particularly the institution getting involved. But they will not be involved if people are not honest enough to say that in fact we don't have enough people to say approval. The other thing is monitoring. You find that a building that was approved for 3 floors is now 7 floors. So you wonder, for them to go from 3 to 7, where were the people who are supposed to be monitoring? So some of these things, they need a national conversation. Even NCA, do they have the capacity themselves to go around, or there is something they can say, okay, be doing this on our behalf. Because it's a question of making sure that we do not lose as a country. But organizations, they should be honest enough to come and say, we actually are not ready, or we don't have capacity.
All right, so then what is this, Engineer Ohanga, as the President IEK? Is it a matter of organization or different institutions not being honest enough? Is it a question of human resource capacity? Is it a question of people just oversighting? Just as the way Mheshimiwa said, some buildings will be approved for 3 floors. After some time, it's going to, and we've seen that over time. What really is the biggest issue as far as this is concerned?
Thank you, Doreen. And I think yesterday we were having a conversation with the CECs in charge of roads and infrastructure in Lake Naivasha Resort. And for sure, it is very apparent within the counties there's lack of capacity. As we speak right now, we require additional 1,700 engineers in those particular counties.
Which counties are this?
All the counties in this country. In fact, it's only Nairobi County.
1,700 in each and every county?
No, about 47 per county.
Okay,
so that one makes about that number that you are looking forward to these particular counties.
Okay.
It's only Nairobi that has about 17 engineers. Other counties don't even have single engineers. You can imagine that. And approvals are being done. But this discussion of collapsing building requires a full disclosure in terms of the professional in the whole value chain, of course, from engineers, architects, quantity surveyors. So when we come together and these particular professionals are available within those counties, then we should be able to make progress. So as Institute of Engineers of Kenya, we have developed a scheme of service for engineers because we also realize within the counties, they are not able to attract and retain these particular professionals because of the entry levels of those engineers and other professionals within the county. So we are engaging the PSC and also Salary Remuneration Commission so that if that scheme is approved, then the county should be able to harmonize their scheme of service to be able to attract, retain, and have those engineers in those counties, and then we can be able to move forward.
So what do we do? 1,700, about 47 in each counties. Just before you come in, Engineer Rastas, money is being released to the counties. What the Treasury is releasing is only 385 billion for counties to share this amount. Treasury has said there's no enough money, so to speak. You are just saying even employment of these engineers is a tussle. So what do we do?
I think there would be a better way of doing things, and engineers always have an alternative to any problem. As we speak right now, we have over 3,700 professional engineers. We have consulting engineers in this country to the tune of 170 consulting engineers, and they are available. If these counties require and they feel that they don't have this capacity up to now, we are saying these services can be outsourced within a very short time, and they'll be able to provide services to those counties from professional engineers and also consulting engineers as they recruit and maintain their own.
It's underway. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. In last year, we carried out a structural assessment of sampled counties because of these collapses. And what came out apparent is there was no professionalism applied to most of those buildings which collapsed. There were no structural engineers that were engaged. And we made a report and made recommendations. I am happy to say here that the counties have taken this report very positively. 2 weeks ago, they are under retreat, organized by the Council of Governors in Mombasa, and they invited the regulators, and they acknowledge the fact that they have these shortcomings in terms of staff. And as Engineer Aga said, we recommended to them that they don't have to have these people permanent, but they must have licensed engineers who can then approve these buildings and who they can send out to supervise and make sure that, to inspect and make sure that these works are done. And the licensed engineers have been equipped with engineer's card, with engineer's stamp, and their skill of fish to apply. So really, all structures have been put in place.
Thank you.
And there is nothing lacking. The 1,000 or so requirement of employees, that can come later, but there are engineers who are in private practice who can be engaged on a contraction basis and do this work.
I hear you.
Doreen,
yes, as we finish, very quickly.
If you, for all the buildings,
yes,
particularly the approvals, the county charges for these approvals. Or what they need to do, the amount of money that they receive out of these approvals, they dedicate some of it to these other functions, so that it is done professionally, and they have no cost to themselves. In actual fact,
you're raising a very big issue right now. Conversation. Counties are just saying they're grappling with pending bills, but when they receive money, whether it's from the counties or from the national government, they're thinking of paying salaries instead of hiring and development. So really, it's quite a lot to discuss as far as that is concerned. Nonetheless, I do appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming and your valuable inputs into this conversation. Highly appreciated.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
I have been speaking to Engineer Eric Ohanga. To my far right, who is the President, Institution of Engineers of Kenya, that is IEK. Right next to him is Honorable Engineer Kiragu Shege, who's the Member of Parliament, Limuru constituency in Kiambu County, and also Engineer Erastus Mongera, the Chairman, Engineers Board of Kenya, that is EBK. What has formed center of our conversation is looking at the role of engineering in nation development, where we are as a country as far as this practice is concerned, looking at the impact, significance therein, and some of those challenges, and how best to seal those loopholes. Good place to end this conversation from me and on behalf of the entire team. Asante sana. We pave way for Parliament. Coming up next.